fight. We don't have to kill. Everybody in the whole wide world really just needs to chill. No, we don't have to fuss, no, we don't have to fuss.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Just Chill with Oliver George. I'm Andre the Alien, and I'll be doing the intro today since Oliver's running a little behind. I think he's taking a dump or something. I don't think he's running behind, I think he's using his behind. Anyways, this is episode 87. Holy moly, that's a lot. And the guest today is very exciting. It's this guy that I crash landed in his backyard. His name's Bobby. He's a pretty cool guy. But before we get into it, I want to remind you that if you're watching this on YouTube, but would prefer an audio-only version for whatever reason, I don't know, you can get that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and many other places like that. However, if you're listening on one of those platforms and you didn't even realize that there was a visual side to the show, please come check it out on YouTube. Then you can see what this voice matches up to. You know what I mean? I'm a pretty cute guy. If you do decide to check out the visual side of things, Oliver would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. You know, just a little click. It's not too hard. Your support really means the world to him. So if you're just tuning in now for the first time or you've been watching since day one, thank you. Finally, if you want to reach out to Oliver, maybe with a cool guest idea, maybe you're a cool guest, or just some general feedback about the show, you can hit him up on social media or send him an email at justchillpodcasting@gmail.com. Whew, that was a lot of housekeeping. Now, back to this episode's guest. I can't wait to interview this guy and understand why he has so many Nick Cage movies. Please put your hands together for... Whoa.
Hey, Andre, thank you so much for the assist, but I can take it from here, dude.
I guess so, fine. I guess it is called Just Chill with Oliver George.
Exactly.
When you want a really interesting guest, give me a call.
Yeah, we'll catch up later for sure.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks again. Wow. Nice not having to do all that intro stuff for once. I have to readjust the mic here. He's a little bit shorter than I am. So let's give it up for Andre. I don't know who I'm asking to give it up. I'll give it up for Andre. But as he was saying, the guest this episode is a really, really fun guy. I had the pleasure of doing a show with him earlier in November, and I really just want to get to know more about him. He's a puppeteer. Don't tell Andre. He's a comedian, so many other things. Let's just get into it. It's Bobby Knauff.
Hello.
Thank you so much, man, for coming.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm going to move this strategically placed.
Yeah, I like it. I wanted to look at that when I started the show. So thank you for
was there for no reason in particular.
None at all.
So how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I'm doing awesome.
I know we caught up briefly at that show. I finally got to actually do a face-to-face interaction with you because I've seen you all over comedy posts for Ottawa, and that's kind of where I wanted to start. Actually, are you not Ottawa local native?
No, moved during the pandemic, actually, in November of 2020.
Was this like maybe to be closer to your folks or something?
No, it was more of like my girlfriend and I were living in a basement apartment in Toronto, and I'd been living in Toronto since I was about 19, so about over 10 years. And she was actually living in Ottawa, and we were doing long distance, and then she made the move to Toronto. Then the pandemic hit, and we kind of just watched our bank accounts just plummet as we were trying to survive in Toronto. Like
it's not cheap living in Toronto. Yeah.
No, and both of our industries were hit hard. She was in the service industry, I'm in entertainment, so both of ours were just cut. And so we were like, and in a basement apartment, we were kind of trapped. And we were just like, we didn't know what to do. And so she, living here in Ottawa before, her friends could get her a job at a clinic, and her brother could get me a job in construction.
Oh.
So yeah, because I was watching some other comics just like kind of waiting it out.
You don't strike me as a construction worker.
No.
The mustache helps, I guess.
Yeah. I've done a lot of general just labor and stuff like that. So I'm an easy, like, quick learner and everything like that. But it was putting up siding in the winter, starting in November of 2020.
Brutal.
So yeah, it was a very dark time.
I know last episode with Jesse Reynolds, he was telling me he had to work in like a warehouse. Again, a job that I did not see him doing.
So many comedians I know got jobs in a lot of us in construction or janitors or different things that were still working because we were all just like,
if you're an entertainer, it's not necessarily a super, like a skill set that you can transport into a different field that easily. Maybe as a waiter, you could use it as just being very personable, and there's stuff like that.
Exactly. All of our other side jobs were also taken away. So it was just...
true. Yeah, exactly. Service industry.
Yeah. So it was just like, oh, wow, what are we going to do? And so I did that until things started opening back up again. Because I was like, this isn't too bad, and it's keeping me on a regular schedule. I'm eating. I'm like in better shape than I've ever been because you just had to like lift all this insanely heavy stuff and go on a stage and put it up on the side of a house. But as soon as things started coming back, I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, well, and getting better shape, probably just being at comedy clubs less can help with that as well.
Yeah.
I know people don't make the best food decisions sometimes.
Yeah,
it's all
especially
finger food
and road gigs, especially, and you're just whatever's open late at night, you'd eat.
another poutine, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So having that completely taken away and then only eating like at a set time every day and good food, basically, it was like good for my body, but like my mental health was like slowly like deteriorating of just like, okay, I need to get back to this. Like,
You mean good food like the company Good Food or no?
No.
Only because we've started doing those and I fucking love them.
Oh yeah, like the ordering the food
Yeah,
and
you
everything.
get the bag and the recipe and all
I'm
that.
good for a day, and then I'll be like, and then things will just start rotting, and I'm like, oh, why did I do this?
Yeah, you got to stay on top of them. Definitely.
Exactly,
They're good
exactly.
for like 3 or 4, and then all the vegetables and produce starts to go shitty.
Exactly, where I'm like, oh, I just will buy what I need. Yeah.
It's interesting. We've tried a few different ones because you'll try one and then they'll try to get you to come back, and then the competitor tries to get you. So what I've learned is Good Food has really great recipes, tastes the best out of all of them, but their produce does seem to turn quicker. Whereas HelloFresh, it's in their name, always fresh produce, but the recipe is kind of shitty. Like, I haven't enjoyed the experience as much.
Yeah, there's so many different ones, and they're all trying to get you. Every time they're in their mailbox, they're like, here's free ones. Here's
or
5
tell your
free
friend,
ones.
give them a coupon.
Yeah.
But it is cool, like especially if you're not someone who cooks or you have like minimal cooking experience, they give you pretty straightforward instructions, and I don't know, I like the feeling of accomplishment at the end, and they always involve a lot of foods I wouldn't necessarily like. How often do you go and buy like radishes or something like that?
For sure. There was a couple times where I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I've ever eaten this on my own volition.
Some of them are like things I've never even heard of, like, or I've heard of but never seen in the flesh, like a tomatillo.
Yeah.
Where you have to like peel this, it's like a green mini tomato that comes in like a little leaf that you have to peel off the outside.
Fancy.
But there's another one too. I can't remember what the fuck it's called now, but it's like a squash type gourd of some kind.
For me, it was the amount of garbage that all these new things accumulating.
Disposable.
Yeah. Like it's so interesting. Like as a species, we're doing 2 things at once. We're trying to like limit these single use things, but then also making all these companies that only have single use things.
Yeah.
Like just one of those boxes when my girlfriend and I did one of the free things or whatever, the amount of just each individual spice thing had its own.
Yeah, that's very true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was just like, this is absurd. Like this is
Well, the other thing I hate about them, because I do like them overall, but one thing that I kind of wanted to turn this into a bit, because I think people could relate if you're not super good at cooking. There's been many times where I found myself pretty flustered because you have to read the instructions. If you kind of just scan over them and like, yeah, I got this, sooner or later something goes awry. Like, and I also don't enjoy that they'll be like, okay, cut up the lime. You're gonna juice half the lime, and then you're gonna, what do you call it when you fucking grate the outside of a lime or a lemon?
Oh yeah.
Do you know this? Zesting. Thank you. Should have used your mic, Dad. So my dad said zest. Flashback to the old episodes where I'd have to repeat everything you said. Zest. Oh, I don't have the headphones. No wonder everything feels fucking weird. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so they'll tell you to zest half and juice the other half, only to like in step 4, they're like, okay, now combine the juice and the zest, and you're like, fuck you. Why did you just what? It's just arbitrary, like making me feel stupid shit now. And and then finally it's like step 5, flambe the acorns. You're like, what? It's just very weird sometimes. They go a little too into trying to make you feel like a 5-star chef. I'm like, I don't need that much.
Yeah. Or sometimes I don't like when a measurement isn't a measurement, like a dash. And I'm like, what's
Yeah,
a
fuck
dash?
that.
Like,
A
I don't know
smidge.
what that, yeah, a smidge, a pinch. I'm like, what if I have like giant fingers or little tiny little baby hands? Like, what's a pinch is different.
Exactly.
Like,
Andre the Giant's pinch is going to be a lot fucking different than Gary Coleman's
than
pinch.
Andre the Alien's pinch.
2 dead people, but still, they're the first large and small people I could think of. So yeah, I figured you weren't from Ottawa because when I start seeing somebody pop up that much in the local comedy scene, just every show, and headlining too and stuff like that, I figured there's no way he's just starting comedy.
Yeah.
And he's fucking shooting off to the moon that quick. So, and sure enough, when I listened to your album, I think there's some point on there where you said you've been doing this for over 10 years. And that was now more than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So when did you start comedy and what kind of got you to try it out the first time?
Well, I'd always I grew up in Thunder Bay, Ontario, where it's just not an option. Like shows would come through every once in a while. Like,
But no open mics and shit.
No open mic, especially when I started. Now there's like a little bit of a scene. I find that just like
That's everywhere now.
Everywhere now,
Yeah.
exactly. Like being social media and everything, people have realized like, oh, we can do this in our small town and this and that. But
And
when
people got sick of sorry to cut you off, people got sick of not having stage time because it was like you have to be already somewhat established to get at Yucks or these types of places for the most part.
Yeah.
And people, I think, were like, fuck it, let's just ask this restaurant if they
exactly
mind free
like
entertainment.
people in a room is people in a room, and if you're just starting out and you need to get people to just watch you to test your material, then it doesn't matter where it is if you start it up. Yeah. But at the time it wasn't. So when I was in Thunder Bay, I had to do like music open mics at the university. Actually, the first time I ever did stand up, I signed up and it was like you got half-hour spots because it was like for like musicians at the university. And I went and I'm like, oh, I'm signing up. And then I got there the day of it. I was just like, oh, my guitar, like all the strings broke today. And the guy was just like, what? I'm like, yeah, all of them. And I couldn't get to the store in time to restring it. And well, he's like, is it here? And I'm like, well, I just left it at home. He's like, well, why are you? And I'm like, well, I have some jokes.
Oh, so you just pretended you were going to do music and then did the old switcheroo?
Yeah, and then he's like, well, you have this time. And it was like just this little cafe in the university. So it was just like some people playing pool and a couple other people. So it's not like it was just
It's not high stakes.
Yeah,
like,
where people were like, oh, he got my spot or something like that. And the other couple people doing spots were like, sure, mix it up. Let this guy do jokes for a bit.
Something fun and different.
Yeah, so I went up with like a full scap that I had written up in like I was still in high school. I was in grade 12, so I wasn't even in the university. And I was like, had these full scap for like science class that I just written up all this material. I was just like, here we go. And I just kind of started going through it and just like.
Did you do the whole half an hour or did you?
I did
come up
about
short?
like, I came up short, but like I just kind of did everything I'd ever written up until that point.
Nice.
And like a lot of it was like garbage, but like a couple of them got a few laughs and people saw where I was going with it kind of thing. And
So
then,
it wasn't a hard bomb.
yeah, exactly. It wasn't. And then the guy even came up after. He's like, you weren't going to play music. And I was like, yeah, sorry. I didn't think you were going to. He's like, I probably would have said no if you asked to do just that. So, but that was good. Do you want to come back and host it some night? And I was like, sure, would love to. And then I brought a bunch of people from my like high school class or whatever. And so they were like, yeah, this is great.
Man.
You brought some people, and that's how I like
You
kind of
hear that? Present day Thunder Bay, or is it the North Bay?
Thunder Bay.
Thunder Bay comedy community. You owe this man for pushing the envelope at a music show and showing them that it was worth doing.
Yeah, and then I would like rent out. Then I moved to Toronto to went to Humber Comedy School, and then whenever I would go home, I would try to put on a show at some random bar or whatever, because I was like, these people helped me kind of start realizing I had a voice of comedy, because I wanted to do film first. That was the main. Wanted to write and direct. I love movies. I've loved them since I was a little kid. Got into weird grown-up movies when I was younger, and so I started an appreciation for film really young.
Was it The Score?
This
Sorry, we were talking at the weed store about Frank Oz because he's a big puppeteer, and apparently he directed a lot of like more adult movies.
Yeah, movies that you wouldn't realize Frank Oz directed, like The Score with Robert De Niro and Edward Norton. That's my favorite one to bring up because people are like, wait, what? Like,
There's no puppets in that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're like, no, he branched off and did other things. So I always wanted to do film, but then like realizing how much time, money, and someone from Thunder Bay, I kind of already squashed my own dreams, but then started an even more unrealistic one by going into comedy. Because in my brain, I was like, you get to do it right away.
True.
Like for a film, I'd have to go to film school. And if I don't go the film school route and do a Tarantino Rodriguez route and make it my own, I have to fund something and get $30,000 minimum. I was like, that's unfathomable to my 19-year-old brain.
Or very risky. If you can somehow get like a bank to loan you that, you better hope the movie goes well.
Exactly. And like the short films I had weren't good. They were just stuff I made in high school or whatever. But at least the stand-up was like decent enough that I could see it going faster than film. And then in my brain, I was like, and then I'll stand up, will go fast real, and then I'll get started into film. And then,
well, it's sort of intrinsically linked in an entertainment way. Like I get that.
And it's also very similar to writing and directing in the sense that you're writing and directing your own material.
True.
Yeah, it is the closest to it, because acting, I was like, I don't want to like I act and stuff now, but like I don't want to say other people's words. And
Interestingly enough, though, you do see comedy specials and like by big people like Burr or whatever, and it'll say directed by, and I guess that's more of the lighting or the overall aesthetic.
I know, because sometimes I've tried to figure it out. Like Chris Rock got Bo Burnham to direct his last one. And it was an interesting and I guess Chris Rock just saw that this young guy had a visual for comedy in a more theatrical way. Because Bo Burnham's shows are very like, he's got the music, he's got these cues and everything like that. So like Chris Rock, very old school, just write an hour, do that. I think maybe, and this is just me, I didn't read this anywhere, just me thinking of like, why would you choose this guy? It was just like young blood. And then also when watching it, I took that into consideration. And like the close-ups are different, the angles are different, the way that his set kind of goes is a little different than classic Chris Rock. Also, he's aged; it's going to be different.
And you're going to get some of Bo's audience interested just because Bo's involved.
Yeah. So it was like that way. I was like, that's cool. And then like Tom Papa got Rob Zombie to direct one of his.
What?
Yeah,
No
it's because I love film and everything like that. I'll see these connections that sometimes other comedians won't realize, and I'm like, that one blew my mind.
That's weird
because they are so different in their.
It feels like it shouldn't be directed. It seems like the wrong word because I can't imagine halfway through the set they're like, actually, if we could just try that again, with a little more like a real movie director.
No,
would,
exactly. Or especially with what Rob Zombie brings to films, is he brings his like music. Like his genre of music into horror film and stuff like that. So to him to direct, especially like a Tom Papa, who is like
pretty wholesome guy.
Hey, how's it going? When I saw him open for Seinfeld when I was like 15. Like it's that type of. So I was just like
he's not like necessarily clean, but he's very wholesome.
Yeah, exactly. He's not saying I'm not throwing him under the bus. I love him, but he's not clean comedy. He's not necessarily super clean, but he's not someone that you'd be like, ooh, you better watch out. It's gonna get a little risky or something like that. But I was just interested to be like, that was a weird choice that I would have never. I wonder why he chose. But again,
right out of left field.
Yeah, but maybe also once you get to a point, like you just want to work with someone that is in your, not even necessarily in your field, but in your level of entertainment.
I think sometimes it's just someone in the entertainment industry that you just have wanted to meet.
Exactly.
And you're like, I can do this. We're both famous. Like, why not send him an email or whatever?
Yeah, and I guess
my people talk to his people.
Or like Tom Papa would never be in a Rob Zombie movie. So yeah, this would be a way to work with each other. Like Steven Soderbergh's one of my favorite directors because he always puts stand-ups in his movies, like sprinkled throughout. One of my favorite movies is The Informant. And like every couple scenes, there's Tom Papa is actually. Did you realize in that Patton Oswalt, Paul F. Tompkins? They're all sprinkled throughout. And then like P.T. Anderson is another other director who loves Paul F. Tompkins is in a bunch of his movies. Okay. So there's this crossover world of like.
But Paul F. Tompkins, he's somewhat of an actor from what I've seen too. It's usually comedic based stuff that I've seen him in.
So that's why it's so interesting. Like he's in There Will Be Blood. Like Paul F. Tompkins is in There Will Be Blood, running like a meeting with the town of deciding if they're going to sell their fields to trying to blank on like one of the greatest actors.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Daniel Day-Lewis, that he's coming to town and going to buy their land, and he's running one of these meetings. And I was just like, what? And then I go back, and he's the guy on the phone in Magnolia and everything. And I'm like, what an
another mustachioed man as well, for the most part, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And then, sometimes not, yeah.
But he kind of reminds me of you in a weird way, now that you brought him up.
But yeah, I love that whenever film and comedy kind of cross over like that.
Definitely.
It's like really cool.
Speaking of clean comedy, do you watch Dry Bar ever? Dry Bar comedy?
No.
Oh, it's just I'm assuming it's like a club that's named that, but they have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I have seen
all clean sets, but they're fucking awesome.
Like Brian Regan's one of my absolute favorites.
Yeah, he's a master at it.
Because of just like I listened to him with my niece one time, and at the time she was like 13. And like both of us howling, listening to him with like my buddies, both of us howling. I've listened to him with like my mom one time. Like he's such a good comic at like, and I love when someone can be clean. When comics like shit on clean comedy, I'm like, you just can't do it. Yeah. And you're very jealous.
You need those F-bombs for your punchlines.
Yeah. And as someone, I have a lot of dirty material and stuff like that. And I'm trying to write more clean. And I find even when I'm doing something clean, my brain will dig into that dirt because it's there. And it's like, it's right there. I want it. But like,
and it usually gets a strong reaction out of an audience, and it's tempting to put that shit in for sure.
For sure. And so when someone can do it without that, you're like, wow, you are a master. Like, and especially
one of my favorites,
sorry, go ahead.
George Wallace.
Yep.
He's
I got to
probably
meet
like,
George Wallace once.
No way.
Yeah.
I still think that guy's fucking hysterical. I follow him on Instagram now, but I remember watching him on Just for Laughs and stuff as a kid.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, because that was
just, he's clean though. I don't think I've ever heard him swear. He talks about like sex a little bit, but it's always very
in
PG.
that way of like nudge, and like it doesn't get too bad, but you're still like belly laughing at it.
Yeah.
I actually loved it because whenever I meet someone famous, I always try to like, I love this and like something out of left field out of their
to show them you're like a deep cuts fan.
Yeah. So I met George Wallace. I'm like, hey man, I loved you in The Lady Killers, and he was just like, you actually had to think. Oh, that was a good time. I was working with the Coen brothers. Like, oh, cool. And it was just cool because he was just like someone you're like, oh, you didn't just want to come up and meet me because I'm...
To get a selfie.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and I didn't even get a picture or whatever. I just was like, hey, man, loved you in The Lady Killers. When you see that thing, you fly back. He's like, oh, that was like, oh,
Yeah,
cool, man. Thank you. And I was like, nice.
That's a sick move, I think, personally, especially not asking for the picture at all.
Not asking for a picture or an autograph, just like, hey, I like what you do. And like, I even like this random one that like most people might not even remember. Like I did Wes Craven. I was like, loved you in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. And he was, for a second, he was like, what?
Who did he play in that again?
He plays himself. Because remember, they go to Hollywood and they're shooting Scream 5 or something.
Oh, yeah.
And it's because Jay and Silent Bob are in Scream 3.
Are they?
For a second. Not many people know this.
In character?
Yeah. Everyone throws Scream 3 under the bus as like the worst of the series. I'm like, It makes it so that Scream universe is happening in the View Askew universe. So somewhere, these mall rats, someone's getting murdered over here in Westboro. Like, I love when movies connect like that, but not super heavy-handed of like, this is in this universe, just a little
bit of overlap.
Yeah, so it's like, because they're shooting Stab 3 or something, or Stab 2 in Scream 3, and Jay and Silent Bob are just like on the lot being like, where the hell are we? Yeah.
I've been a big Kevin Smith fan for a long time, and I never knew that.
I was huge in high school, so anytime I had the DVD when he directed those few episodes of Degrassi,
Yeah.
like I was
a big Degrassi fan too, so that was kind of like a merging.
me
of
too. I
worlds.
loved the original, and then like my buddy and I drove to Calgary to go watch a Kevin Smith talks when he was first starting to do that. It was the closest town to Thunder Bay, so we rented a car and drove to Calgary.
Or an evening with
Kevin
Smith.
Smith. Yeah.
We saw him do a Hollywood Babylon in Toronto with Ralph Garman.
Yeah, because at that point they were like, it was like a thing. Because I remember the first one he did, it was basically just talks at college, put it together on a
it was
DVD.
just him. Yeah.
And my buddy and I were like, these are some of the funniest stories ever.
Were really
And we
good.
would, like the one about Bumble War.
One about his anal fissure.
So many good, hilarious stories. And then it just got popular and it almost became stand-up by the time.
And not long after he started like Smodcast and all that shit.
Exactly, yeah,
And then he had
yeah.
a bunch of shows on the go.
And that's when I kind of found it hard to follow. But when I was still really into it, Wes Craven's in that. And like the monkey is the killer in Scream.
Oh, yeah,
In
I
the
do
Jay and
remember this
Silent
now.
Bob one because they're going to rescue her. And then it's just like, then Wes Craven's like, that was great. Like,
I used to have one of the first apartments I lived in with this guy who I'm not even friends with anymore. And it was not a great experience overall, but we both got baked a lot, and we had a TV with a VCR. And this is in like 2005. Like we should have had a DVD player. But
we still had one too at that time. Yeah.
4 or 5 tapes, and we watched them on repeat. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I think we had Mallrats too, or Dogma, or one of his other films. But we also had the third Austin Powers, arguably not the strongest. What the fuck else did we have? There was 1 or 2 other movies, but yeah, I've definitely seen Strike Back more times than I should have. I'm ashamed that I didn't remember that Wes Craven connection.
Yeah, it's one of those ones I like to also drop on other people too, of like just like a little cool movie fact. Because I like the internet and IMDb for all these things of connecting things in movies and learning things, but like I miss the doing it on your own.
Yeah.
Like the Easter egg. Like I miss video stores for that reason of like nerding out with people.
Yeah.
Because now like everything's super available everywhere and you can find a lot, but then also a lot of gems get lost
Definitely.
in it, or you don't commit to certain things, or you don't give things a chance as much, or you will, but you'll give them 2 seconds and you'll
No, but
turn
getting
them
the
off.
recommendation from another human. I mean,
Exactly.
I worked at Rogers Video for like 2-3 years. It's probably still one of my favorite jobs I've ever had. And it was really cool just talking to people about movies and getting the new releases before anyone else. We would always get, to watch them.
I still rented in Toronto up until like 2019. I still rented DVDs, and people were like, "What?"
I'm
And
amazed you could still do that.
yeah,
anymore.
because in Toronto there was like a couple really cool, unique places that once streaming came in and destroyed the Blockbusters and the mom and pops and everything, these niche stores still existed. So there
it's
was
like vinyls. Or,
Exactly. So it was Suspect Video, one of their locations unfortunately burnt down.
Shit.
They had two, and one of their massive, the biggest location burnt down. And some DVDs of some foreign films, that was the last copy.
Were there any suspects?
It was actually a meth den was like in the building beside it, and it exploded.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it was. I was actually like a block down the street doing karaoke when it happened, and it was just like boom, you heard it. It was nuts. And then they have another second location, so some of their stuff survived. But then there's another one, Bay Video. Shout out to Bay Video in Toronto.
Are they still open?
Yeah, and they're still open, and because they had like Criterion section and by director, and it was this collection that like movie nerds, and I would just go there, walk around, and I'd be the weirdo where someone would be like asking the person about stuff. I'd be the guy who pop out behind the thing.
Interject.
I'm like, you're actually, I think you're looking for this, or like someone was like, I'm a huge Nick Cage fan, like he's the god when it comes to film, and someone was like, I really like Nick Cage or this, and I was like, it's my time to shine. And I came around the corner. I'm like, well, what are you in the mood for? If you want subdued Cage, if you want crazy Cage. This lady was just like, oh, she was like into it because anyone coming into this store is a weirdo.
They're an aficionado. Yeah.
So they want some weirdo to start talking to them, where I find a lot of times now people are like a stranger talking to me that I didn't initiate.
Especially post-pandemic, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, I miss that so much about.
So why didn't you apply for a job there when things, or I guess they closed as well.
They stayed open, but it was like those stores, because they're super niche, have a like staff of people that you're not getting a job there until they die.
Or until probably only like 3 people that
exactly.
work there too,
and wherever I would go would be the same few people that, and so like, and they have their job.
Like, I fucking love this job.
I love this. It might not pay the best, but I love film, and I would put so much money into film that this cuts that out of my thing, and I'm never getting rid of this job. Same with like comic book stores I would find all the time.
Yeah.
It was like those two.
Even bong shops to some degree, pre-legalization, it was cool to have a job at a bong shop.
I was about to say, because that was the one I got. I wanted one of those 3. Because I worked in a movie theater growing up, but it was like a Silver City, so it wasn't like a cool, like indie.
It wasn't like the
one.
Bytown or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like, and that was a dream job. But then I wanted video store clerk, bong shop, or comic book store. And the video store and comic book store were really hard. So I got a bong shop one in Toronto, The Underground, which was clandestiny for a bit.
Didn't that end up being a comedy spot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was one of the, to this day, best.
Where's
comedy.
The one that Rita did his shows at? Because I performed there once.
Rita did Vapor Lounge, but Rita
it.
was like, Rita's a weed comic, so he had shows at all of them. But The Underground and Joey Puff Mama, like, is...
Oh, I've heard of her, yeah.
Yeah, she is like the godmother of like Canadian weed comedy and does not get enough shout outs for it.
Well, also that guy that just died, Alan Park.
Yes, Alan Park.
He was a big cannabis advocate when people weren't.
And Joey was a huge part of that.
Green Crush, I think was his show.
They did a lot of his shows in the back.
So RIP to him. I never met him, but I know I have a lot of contacts that were close with him, and I've seen people.
He was he helped me a lot when I was in a really depressive, like suicidal part in my life. Like he was a really, really good guy, and a lot of people. He's very outspoken with his beliefs.
Yeah, some of the vaccination stuff I had seen in more recent years.
Yeah, but then out of a lot of people that like had opinions like that, knowing his medical history and the way that the medical like industry, basically not just field, treated him with everything, I understood where his was coming from more than some people who were just back up. I'm not putting that in my body kind of thing. Yeah. It was like you've been lied to a lot.
Well, here's the guy who was told he had like a year to live or something,
and then cured himself with medical marijuana and cannabis and all this stuff, and then wanted to just be like, hey, you can help other people, and they just blocked him.
He lived like an extra 10 years or something.
Yeah, it was insane.
I don't know what kind of cancer he had.
I can't remember exactly it. I remember.
I think it was aggressive prostate or something was like he was supposed to die really.
Put the oil right up his...
up the poop chute.
Yeah.
Turkey baster style.
Yeah, and so I understood his aggression and distrust towards the medical industry, like more than anyone else. So like... But that's because I knew him and everything like that. And COVID was a very divisive time for people.
I've seen him. He seemed to be quite a good interviewer, too.
Oh, yeah.
I had watched some clips of his show.
Fascinating. Because he was funny, but really smart and didn't care if he was putting someone in an uncomfortable position. And not because he wanted them to be uncomfortable.
He wasn't an instigator.
Exactly. He was just like, let's talk about this. No one's talking about this. We're going to talk about it. And it was like, oh, okay. I remember I did it once and it was so much fun. But I remember my best memories with him were at Puff Jam, another event Joey would put on when Underground was in its heyday, this summer event like a music comedy festival, but like really toned down.
Like
so
Weedstock.
Yeah,
thing.
basically, but like not as huge as all those other ones, so that we could kind of have fun and trip balls in the woods.
Just saying that out loud, I hope someone has used that name for a weed music event. Weedstock.
I'm assuming there has been, yeah. But it was like Puff Jam because Puff Mama, and she did it with a couple musician friends and everything. And we had a comedy show late at night where we'd all do acid. It was some of the best. Like Joey is like that whole scene in the underground and getting that job at the bong shop in comedy and those worlds intertwining is like what made me the comic I kind of am.
I'm glad he came up then.
Yeah, and also it was like I used acid to help get me sober from other drugs.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I want to talk about that then because were you microdosing or was it just full dose, like restart the system kind of thing?
Yeah, so I tried a bunch of different avenues to try to quit drinking. I tried AA. I tried like meditating, different stuff. I didn't try any like drugs or anything like that, but I was heavy into cocaine and booze. And I was at a point where I just kind of like, well, this is just going to be my life.
Where, circa, like, when would this have been?
This would have been like 2015 to 2018 is when it started getting really bad.
Okay, and how many years have you been like clean and sober?
Since 2018.
Okay, so that's a good stretch already.
Yeah,
Fucking
yeah. And it was just cocaine got heavy into stand-up comedy scene, like really bad in Toronto. Like it just like a few people would do it every once in a while, but they got a reputation of like, oh, blah, blah. But then all of a sudden it was just everywhere and everyone. And
Wow.
it was just like, hey, a little bump, this, and it was just like, holy shit. And then I just was like doing cocaine in the morning. And I was like, what just happened? And then I was like, yeah, like I said, tried all these different things to quit. Didn't work.
Cocaine does not discriminate.
No. And I started doing voice work. And so I was getting not a lot of money, but a lot of money for someone who had never had a lot of money for a very little amount of work. You know what I mean? Like going in a booth, talking for a bit. Here's $1,000 or something. You're like, holy shit. And it all went up my nose.
Wow.
And I didn't pay my taxes and all this stuff. And I was just like, this is just going to be my life forever. And I became like, I'm going to be the guy reading Bukowski at the bar. And I became that guy. I was just corners reading Bukowski. Like, you're right. And just
Bukowski is great, but yeah, it's fucking depressing.
Exactly. And you don't want to read it when you're deciding like, I'm going to be a drunk for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And so I actually saw this interview on Colbert with, I'm drawing a blank on the author right now, but he wrote a book called How to Change Your Mind. And there's now a Netflix series.
Michael Pollan.
Yeah, Michael Pollan. Thank you.
He's a really brilliant guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And so in the interview, he was saying like he writes about food a lot. And that was his thing about like what we put in our bodies and everything like that. And all of his research, whenever he would get into mushrooms, just eat the good things about regular mushrooms, someone would say like, you got to get into researching this part. There's so much over here that you're just kind of like, not avoiding, but he was like,
That's not my forte.
that's not my forte.
Yeah.
So he's finally like, it just kept so many times coming up that he's like, I have to, and in order to write about it properly, I have to do these things. And so like he did all the different like drugs in the book,
And then
very
he-
lower doses of it and everything.
But he wrote a book right afterwards about those experiences, right?
Exactly. And like how back in like, I think it was the 50s and 60s, acid and mushrooms and psilocybin especially was being used for depression, addiction,
OCD,
and
shrooms,
and people with what's the word when you're given a diagnosis and what Alan got?
Like when it's terminal.
Terminal. Yeah. So it was that. So it was addiction, depression, and terminal, like
Helping people accept that they're going to die and not being terrified of it.
And I was like, wait, what? Like we were researching this, and then the government came in with once acid kind of jumped the wall with Timothy Leary or.
It was because of Vietnam or something, I think, right?
And like MK Ultra and all these different things, and they were saying like, "Oh, this is really bad, and we can't do this." And so like Canada was actually one of the leading researchers in this, and it all had to be shut down. And it was like, what the? Like I was like upset reading this book, and I was like,
and then you get into the 80s, and it's like Reagan's era of
Yep.
don't do drugs. This is your brain on drugs.
Yeah, and you're just like, and the war on drugs and all that, and you're just like, holy shit. And it took just like, wow. And I realized like, oh, brain, this has worked on me because in my mind, I'm like, oh, if I do acid, I might never come back.
Yeah.
I'm going to break my brain.
Degrassi, right? Shane jumped off the bridge.
All these stuff.
and
But I've
got
been
fucking-
drinking since I was 13, and that's socially acceptable. And that was fine in my parents' eyes. Not that I was drinking at 13, but you know,
No.
teens will be teens.
But almost. You say not that at 13, but like go back another 30 years, they probably would have been like, hey, You sprouted your first pube. Here's a shot of whiskey.
Exactly. And so reading this book, I was like, and the way that he says in the book is like, you go to a clinic and they like put you in a nice little room, or you go with other people and you put these headphones on and there's a doctor there. And I'm like, I can't afford all this stuff. So I had done mushrooms and acid in the past, but like as a party drug.
Yeah.
And like anytime, when you're tripping and like something comes up and you're like, oh, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to the party zone. Basically in this book, he was like, go to that.
Yeah.
And so I
face the dragon.
Yeah. And so on this yearly, I shouldn't have done this to my buddies, but who cares? This yearly fishing camping trip that I do with a bunch of my buddies up in Thunder Bay. We call it the Graydon Fish Derby, my buddy Cale Graydon. And we still do it to this day. We're in our 30s. And sometimes people will miss a certain year, but it's like this cool tradition that we do. And I was like, that's where I feel the safest. In a weird, it's like this boat-in thing with a bunch of drunk idiots, but I feel the safest there mentally.
Yeah.
These are all my buddies.
No judgment.
No judgment. And they judge, but they'll be like, oh, that's Bobby. He cries sometimes. Or like, oh, Bobby, he's getting on his high horse about what we can say and what we can't. Oh, that's Bobby. And so I'm like, I'm going to just take a buttload of acid in the woods. And anytime those things come, just
embrace it.
Yeah. And so there were times where like there's this like porch that's like a screened porch that like the guys are all sitting on. They're like, is Bobby okay? And I'm just standing on this stump, like crying in the rain, like, ah. And I was just like,
you're working through some shit.
Yeah. And then the next morning, I'm sitting around the fire and I haven't gone to bed. And I'm just like tripping out. And then like, I think it was Wardo came up to me. He's like, you okay? And I'm like, I'm never drinking again. And he was just like, oh, okay. But also like,
Did you hold true to that from that moment on? Or?
Yep.
Oh, wow. That just shows how powerful it is.
Yeah. The next day I got on a flight to Porter to fly back to Toronto. And Porter's like free booze or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Free booze. And every time I would always be like, get a beer. And I remember like, yep, beer. She put it down and I stared at it. And then she came back. I'm like, I'm really sorry, but I can't have this. And she was like, they don't care. You know what I mean? It's not like she bought me a beer. That's coming off of my paycheck. So she was like, yeah, no problem. And dumped it. And I was just like, holy shit. And I went home and I like dumped the booze that I had in my house. And I deleted the Coke numbers off my phone.
Wow.
Yeah.
No fucking around.
Yeah. And then people are like, well, now do you just do acid all the time? And I'm like, no. Like I do it maybe once a year. Like for like a reset,
a transformative,
and now it's not a party drug anymore. It's kind of like a
tool. Yeah,
of just like I need to kind of recheck in and get rid of the ego and figure out what I need to focus on.
It's interesting you were saying about like all the bad reputations some of these drugs have had, because I'd say the acid one is still applies to me in the way that it still gives me the heebie-jeebies hesitation of like, partially because the duration being high for like 12 hours potentially is kind of a big commitment. Even shrooms for 6 hours when you've got kids and shit, like I need to like babysitter for the weekend kind of thing. And it's, I've had success for depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder with both macro and micro dosing mushrooms, but acid is still one of those ones that sort of eludes me. But I've heard nothing but what you're saying with LSD being a tool that can really benefit you I think with a lot of these drugs, it's really what is your intent going into it.
Yes.
And if you can sort of embody that intent and make that sort of guide your trip, then you will find the answers you are seeking,
And it's a lot they say, and I got this term from the book, it's set and setting. So how you are mentally and your surroundings. Mm-hmm. So if you're that's why they recommend if you're trying to deal with stuff, to being in a very comfortable space, someone else there, not high, couch, headphones, you know what I mean? Really enjoy it, because a bad trip can just be where you are.
Yeah.
I remember used to do them as a party drug. I did them at a buddy's bachelor party, and we went to a Jays game. And I was like, I'm going to do mushrooms. And I was
like a nightmare.
Yeah. And I remember I went to the bathroom in inning 3 and I came back in inning 7. And my buddies were like, where were you? And I was like
wearing the mascot uniform.
Yeah, I was just
what?
like, I found one of the bathrooms, but it was just no. And they were like, what?
So you were just like debating on urinals for 20 minutes?
Yeah, I was just like, I don't like
know
the
how long
vibe.
an inning is. That shows how much I know about sports. I'm like, 20
well, that's
minutes,
it. I'm not a
right?
sports guy either, so that's why I was like, it was a bachelor party. They were all, and I was like, I got some mushrooms in my fridge. Let's have a good time. But I was just like, what?
That's
on.
Yeah, my advice to someone, if they've never done mushrooms, at least I can speak to that. I learned that if you just want to have fun, just watch funny movies. Because something about like being in the same way that like if I go to a movie theater and I have a lot on my mind, you get to kind of just escape and be brought into that narrative and that world, and you kind of disassociate a little bit from your own drama or whatever you might be, worried about or whatever. So as long as you're picking comedy movies, I can only imagine if you picked like a drama or something.
I find I can't watch anything until the tail end.
Oh, really?
Because if I watch it while it's happening, something about my brain can't
You just can't follow the story even, or
I feel they're talking to me. And so
you're in the scene.
Yeah. So any problem that they're having, even if it's comedic, because a lot of comedy is based on like I was talking about this with someone, like a lot of our 80s and 90s comedies are all crime based. And I miss that in movies. Even movies you don't think it's a crime movie. Like Dumb and Dumber is a crime movie. It's this guy trying to do something. By the end, the final act is this guy with a gun who's
trying to get the briefcase or something, right?
Exactly. Like all these movies, like that's how they set up, because that's an easy way to set up a problem and then put a fish out of water situation, is this guy having to deal with this world that they're not used to. And so like anytime I'd be watching a comedy, I'd just get so stressed out on mushrooms. I was like, do I have to help? Like, I can't do anything right now. They need me right now. Like, and I was just like, oh, so at the tail end of it, and I'd always found Muppets were my go-to tail end
thing
to watch. Exactly. Cause it's just like, cause the worst is like Kermit is like, well, the show's not going to go well. It's like, Kermit, everyone will be fine. They're going to get their shit together. We're going to put on a good show. The host is going to be fine.
Yeah, somehow Muppet problems don't seem
they seem like, we just got to put on a good show, Kermit. It's okay.
Fozzie, just waka your way out of this one. You'll be good. Yeah. I was going to say I did shrooms probably like, God, it must have been like 5 years ago or something now. Not since I've done shrooms, but since this experience. My buddy Chris came over, and a few cool things happened, but we just watched stuff all night, and it was the best. One of the best tours I've ever had. One was we watched this claymation movie called To Hell and Back. And it's got all these voices of like TJ Miller and Mila Kunis and all these other people. We were like, how have we never heard of this?
Yeah, how have I never heard of this?
And it was probably only an hour and a half, but it felt like a 10-hour adventure that we never wanted to end.
Like a mini series of something like, keep going.
Dude, when the credits rolled, we were like legit sad that it was over and almost debated just watching it again. But we also watched... we started like just channel surfing and ended up on like what was clearly programming for like 11-year-old kids. It was like a sitcom with horrible laugh track about these genius kids who work in a toy factory designing toys.
Oh, okay. Like, one of those like Disney Channel type shows or something.
We were so not the target audience, but we still found a way to like totally enjoy it. I don't know.
The best one, I just remembered this. My girlfriend and I went to see Cats on Mushrooms.
Oh, God.
The movie. Because I remember everyone was talking about like, get high and go to this movie. And I remember this article that was making rounds when it came out of this guy, like, this guy took mushrooms and went to see Cats. But then when you read the article, the guy left 20 minutes in. And I was like, why is this going? He didn't do it. Like this. I
wouldn't even want to watch that trailer on Shrooms.
And it was Young and Dundas. It was like the winter before COVID, basically. And I hadn't done them in a while. And I was like, yeah, it's like, I usually didn't do them in public or whatever, but like, if we're not having a good time, we'll walk around downtown and that will be nice in the winter, the lights and everything. And so we went to Young and Dundas Square, the theater, and like took the mushrooms on the subway ride there so that they would kick in as the movie started. And like, as we got there thinking, like, this is going to be dead. It's the last week of this movie. It's bombing. But we went on a Tuesday and like, it was getting all this bad buzz that people were like, we got to see this piece of shit. But
or it was a bunch of people on shrooms.
So this is what happened. It was a mixture of musical theater freaks. And like, I love musical theater and everything, but like theater kids, like I used to date one, they are weird. And so there was this whole row of people like, I'm a Tom Tom Tug, I'm a Mr. Mustafa. Like they knew characters and now I do clearly. And then there was like a bachelorette party with all had little cat ears. So this theater was rammed. And we had to sit in the front row areas and we were like, I don't know. And like it starts and we're like, okay, my girlfriend and I are looking at each other like, do we want to do this?
We go.
And then we looked around and we could see a couple other us's, like two people like, we're like, okay, we're good. We're in there with them or whatever. Then the movie starts and it's just like, holy crap. And it's wild. It's insane.
James Corden and all these random
the
people.
Play itself, that's what was so funny. People were like, this movie's ridiculous. I'm like, the play itself is insane. It's just cats introducing themselves the whole play. I actually went to see it with my girlfriend, not on shrooms, a couple months before. And like, after the fourth song, I just turned to her. I'm like, is this whole play just cats introducing themselves? And my girlfriend's like,
dog shit.
I think no. But as a cat guy and someone who likes musical theater, I'm like, this is one of the best things I've ever seen. And I'm like, if you just want to watch cats introduce themselves for an hour and a bit, it's great. But then the movie,
I do not want to
all the digital weirdness, and then people, because they're musical theater people, they're into it and knew some of the songs. So there's this like Skimbleshanks the railway cat, and they're like on a train, and like in the movie they're all like doing that, and they're all running, and the whole theater, a couple of the rows start doing it like with their feet, and we're like, I turn to Erica and I'm like, is that happening? And we look, and like people in our row are doing it.
It's
and we're
like when people go see Rocky Horror.
Yeah, and it already had become this thing within a couple weeks of it being out. We're like, how are we here? And then Ian McKellen shows up and just starts drinking milk, like, "Mwah, mwah." And my girl Erica just literally goes, "Wah!" like screams at him. And then at the end, Judi Dench looks into the camera, not like a character, the camera, and goes, cats are not dogs. And I just remember going like, yes, dame, yes. And then people laughing around us, and then getting up and just like seeing the other people on shrooms. Like this one guy was like, I can't do it. I can't get up. We got to wait till everyone leaves. And if you've ever been to the Yonge and Dundas Theater, to leave, it's these super skinny escalators.
Oh, I have been there once.
That you're really encased with everyone else. So when you're tripping balls, you're just like, I got to get out of here. And then this like fight broke out on the escalator. Like these two guys were trying
cat
to
fight. Sorry, I had to. Right there.
It was perfect, but it was like other movie theaters. So these two guys probably watched a bro movie or something. We're all like, blah, blah, blah. And my girlfriend is just the funniest thing she's ever said. She turned to me, she's like, things are escalating on the escalators. And everyone around her died laughing.
Right, that beats my cat fight. Yeah, like, for sure.
One of the fun, and I'm dying. And we get out into the world and we're like, thank God. And we just walked around downtown Toronto for an hour and a half singing all the different, like, I'm a rum tum tuck. I have now the soundtrack on my phone. I bought it because I'm like, this is amazing. And we're never
like
going
right up your alley, but all of this has made me want to see cats less.
But here's the thing. My girlfriend and I have said we're never going to watch it again unless we're on shrooms. Because the way our memories are of it, are so cooler than what the movie probably is.
You want to
like? I remember Dame Judi Dench. Dame Judi Dench. I remember her like thing like wisping and like just like that. And someone was like, "No, man, it looked really bad." And I was like, "I thought it was amazing."
Keep the mystique.
Exactly.
The way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of antiquated views on drugs, just to get back to that a little bit, I find it extra annoying that certain things are so, like you were saying, specifically alcohol is so like pushed in a positive way in society. And why I'm bringing it up is because my whole family pretty much, my dad and my mom, all of my family here, Kelly and I and the kids, and then Kelly's mom and her partner, they're coming as well. So it's going to be this big trip to Dominican. But the problem for me is that I'm a heavy cannabis user, medical actually. I have a medical card and all that. And if you have weed down there, it's like 5 years in Dominican jail, and that's fine. I guess it seems a little bit old school at this point, but the fact that they'll give me as much alcohol and or tobacco as I want, and that's okay, it just pisses me off internally.
Exactly, because you see the damage one causes. So it's not this safety thing. It's just a stupid political thing. It's just a stupid control thing. It's never
tradition, you could call it even.
Exactly. It's never like when you're a kid, you're brainwashed into like, that must be bad for me. And in my family, it was like smoking. No one smokes, so smoking was considered bad. So smoking another thing must be bad too.
Yeah.
But drinking was all just, this is fine.
Yeah.
Like we're allowed to get shit-faced. And it's like, but doesn't this cause more problems? Like,
Definitely
like
does.
why is there a campaign? Why are there numerous campaigns? I'm 8 years old and I know numerous campaigns that are anti-drinking. Well, at the same time, drinking's pushed on me. I don't ever hear of oh, he was stoned and that's who killed the family driving home from that Christmas party.
Yeah.
No,
I'm sure it's happened once
I'm
in
not
a
saying
while,
it's never happened because I hate those people too who say like, weed's so safe all the time, no
Don't
matter
drink
what.
and drive.
Exactly. Drugs react differently to
Smoke and
people.
fly, I think.
Yeah. Something stupid. But like drinking and driving, we know is this humongous problem. And not even drinking and driving, drinking, what it does to you, your mental state, what it does to your organs, like all these things.
Your relationships.
Exactly. So much stuff, but it's still like, nope, we've made it this huge industry and we're not gonna stop.
And well, tobacco, it's finally, the brakes are pumping on. I mean, you can still get the tobacco. It's not banned or anything, but it's not like what it was in, I assume, I mean, I wasn't around, but in the 70s or whatever, you could smoke anywhere.
Or like doctors would used to like be like, oh, just lose weight. Or like, oh, you're a little anxious, so have a cigarette. Or something like that. Like, yeah. And it's just one of those things where it's like, I'd almost even want to argue smoking's better than drinking. It does damage you, but it doesn't damage your relationships as much and your mental health as much. Yeah. And I'm not saying I'm pro it. Yeah. But I wish drinking would get some of the flack smoking gets.
If you only smoked cigarettes and you never drank, you might actually die from lung cancer at 68, but with all your relationships maintained.
Yeah. And I'm not pro it, but I just wish some of the flack smoking got was just a little bit taken away from them. And
I've heard
still
that's
keep the
trend.
flack.
That's where it's headed. I don't know. I saw some article saying that younger generations are moving away from alcohol and it's not as cool as it used to be. I don't know. I'll believe it when I stop seeing
I read some of those
people
too.
with like fake IDs at LCBO clearly about to get hammered. But,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get back to comedy because we've been on a long fucking tangent. I don't even know where we went down, but I wanted to ask you because I saw you in Manitic and you destroyed headlining and I really liked your stage presence. You kind of just like leaned on things and you made yourself look very comfortable. I don't know if you are on stage comfortable, but you did a joke all about having the inclination to have the hots for old senior citizens and stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to know, first off, if there was any truth to this, if this was actually a kink of yours, if you're comfortable talking about it, or if it was just a bit. And either way, whatever the answer to that is, I want to know if after doing that bit, you've ever had like cougars come and hit on you being like, oh, this guy's into my wrinkles or whatever, you know?
So that bit's kind of a double-edged sword, I guess you could say, because it is based in reality. Of like, it wasn't necessarily a kink. Like some people search out their kinks. It was more just like, I like that. You know what I mean? And I just found when I was single and dating in Toronto, I preferred chatting with older women. Like
but in the joke, they're like 70 or something.
They're
right?
very old in the joke, but that was the thing. That happened in my time dating older women that it did get a little higher up sometimes.
Can you tell me the highest?
That in the joke, it is true. It was 72.
That you slept with?
Yeah. And I know, and everyone's like, oh, and it's one of those things.
No, I don't judge at all.
No.
72-year-old still need to get laid? Like, I get it.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it, and I'm not even lying, is one of my favorite...
Cocaine? It was the cocaine? No, sorry.
One of my favorite movies. Again, my life is so... I don't know if it's influenced or infected by film, but one of my favorite movies is Harold and Maude.
Okay.
Hal Ashby movie, so good from the 70s. Bud Cort and oh man,
I've heard of it, never seen it.
I'm drawing a blank on her name right now, which is terrible because I got Ruth Gordon. Ruth Gordon, Bud Cort, Hal Ashby movie, beautiful movie. This guy's young, he's kind of rich, and his mom keeps wanting to set him up with these young socialites and everything like that. And it's really funny, the gags in the movie too, the visual gags. He like pretends to kill himself anytime a new girl comes to see, and she like runs away like, oh my God. And then the mom's like, Harold. And then he meets this like old lady, Ruth Gordon, who just has this lust for life and is just kind of like gives the finger to cops and like dances wherever she feels like, and just kind of like rejuvenates like this kid who shouldn't have these viewpoints, but it does. And kind of like makes him look at life differently. And then she likes his, like, and it's
so
just
even though she's older, she's full of youthful spirit.
Yeah. And she's like really old in that she's a senior. She's like, I think like in her late 70s, or maybe even in the movie, they say she's 80.
And he's like
19, 20, like super young. Yeah. And it's pure. It's not like sexualized in that way. Like they hook up, like spoiler alert, the movie's old. Like they hook up, but it's in this beautiful, like,
well, you got to be gentle when they're that old. I mean, come on.
And I'm pretty sure in the movie, he's a virgin too. So he's like losing, kind of like put that in my head of like, old ladies aren't off the, like, they're not done. They're not done with that part of their lives. And a lot of people view that. And then also when I was younger, I think because of that movie and stuff, anytime a movie that was definitely made for old ladies, I liked. Like Calendar Girls, this movie where it's like seniors getting naked for a calendar to help
I
save
vaguely remember that.
Yeah, that was an early 2005 one. Like this one where this old lesbian couple, Olivia Dukakis and the old lady from Angels in the Outfield, they want to get married, but it's illegal in the States, so they drive up to Canada. It's this little indie movie.
Oh, weird.
Mr. Leahy's in it.
John Dunsworth.
Yeah, John Dunsworth picks them up at one point when they're hitchhiking, and he figures out like, oh, these two ladies are gay. Like, and like those movies like that are just like, I love those types of things. So I think that put in the idea in my head. That's why it's not like a kink where it's like, oh, that an old lady over there.
Well, it's a kink, I guess, if it's like the only thing that really gets you hard.
And that's why in the joke, I obviously for the joke purposes make it kind of more like that's all I slept with before my girlfriend.
Play it up a bit.
Yeah. Where it was just like, those weren't like, if someone was a certain age, I didn't go, oh no. You know what I mean? Like,
because you have a partner now, right?
Yeah.
And she's more age appropriate.
That's the joke. That's how this joke came about, was because I started with like, oh, I got a girlfriend with this guy, but she's gross. And people are like, what? I'm like, no. She's gross because she's my age. And then people are like, is he going to like younger girls?
Skin's all smooth.
Yeah. So then I go into that bit and then I say that. And that's why it's a double-edged sword, because like, I wish I came up with this bit pre us dating when I was still single, because older women do come up to me now and are like, oh, hey. And I'm like, but I'm with someone. That's the whole point of this bit, is that like,
and then they try to slip you a Werther's original and you're like, it's not going to work.
there's been like some times that like, well, that's how it first started, was like at a show, an older single lady just got out of a divorce or whatever and was just like, hey, you want to go? And I was like, yes, I do. And it was in some like smaller town where like I was staying at the hotel.
It's interesting they kept getting older though. Like,
yeah.
Wow. Wouldn't it be crazy if you had given one a heart attack or something? Fuck.
So that's the part of like a new tag I've put in the joke, where it's just like, some people like dangerous sex.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, we're having sex outside, we might get caught. Or like, ooh, no condom. I like dangerous sex, but it's like, ooh, we might have to call an ambulance. Like, hold on to that medic alert bracelet, baby.
Oh man, that's hilarious. 71, 72?
72.
Wow. I guess at that age, the 1 year probably doesn't make that big of a
And that's the
difference.
other thing too, is that like, it shows how ageist we are as a society, that you say a number, people immediately think, first of all, gross.
Well, I was gonna say my reaction was more like gleeful in that opposite way of like, hey, why not? If you guys had a connection and you were both attracted to each other, fucking A.
Exactly.
Not hurting anybody.
Yeah, we met
Maybe
at a
her,
bar.
depending.
We met at a bar. It was actually, that lady was funny because it was at a gay bar, and so she was there with like some of her gay younger friends. Picked me out like that. She was like, "You're not gay."
So she hadn't heard your bit.
No,
wow.
this was just like, it was. I was in a town.
Good for her.
Yeah, I was in a town
Fucking balls
performing.
on this lady.
I was in a town performing, and then I was out on the town, and I was like, "Oh, I went up to someone. I'm like, "Where's a good bar? Just like have some fun, have some drinks." And they're like, "That one over there is, but that gay bar over there, as long as you're not an asshole, like." And I'm like, oh, I don't care, like, where I go. I just want to dance and have a good time. So I went to this gay bar, and then this old lady picked me out right away of like, she could tell, I guess, I wasn't hitting on other dudes, or I don't know what it was. I was just dancing, having a good time, being like, yeah. She came up, she's like, you're not gay. And I was like, well, am I not allowed to be here? Like, I was just so like, I'm having a good time. Like, yeah.
I thought she was like the owner or something.
Yeah, or something. And she's like, no. And then we started dancing or whatever. I was like, oh. And then like we went outside. She's like, where are you staying? I was like, actually just down the street or whatever. She's like, well, you want? I'm like, yes, I do. Like, it was one of those, like, every time it's happened, it's been a natural, like, situation. I haven't gone into like Craigslist and been like looking for
No, but clearly they've been
up.
good situations, or you wouldn't have.
That's what I mean. And and obviously in the joke, I amplify certain things for comedic purposes. Yeah, but anytime it was always just like a natural instance, and I never had those blockers that other people might have, because I think the films I watched and the way that the things I would read and the different stuff like that. And so it was always just and I think older ladies liked me as a younger dude from what I would talk about.
Because you looked like a younger guy, but you were mature for your age.
Mature for my age, and like the references sometimes that I would like know or drop on them, they would just be like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, I like older film, or I like older music, or I remember picking up an old lady at karaoke because I did Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, And she was just like, whoa. And I was like, oh, yeah, fucking Frankie Valli. Like, what a voice on that guy. Like, it sang the theme for Grease. And I'm like,
So the makeup music is like from the 40s.
Yeah. And I like one of my favorite songs to sing is Run Around Sue by Dion and the Belmonts. And then just this one observation I made, it just like made me look smarter, and I never realized. I was like, he was one of the first one to slut shame. And then this lady was like, what? I was like, well, he has this one song, Run Around Sue, where he's like, oh, this lady getting with every guy around town. Don't sleep with Sue. She's bad. Then he's got the Wanderer over here, where it's just, I'm the type of man that goes from town to town, where he's like, he's just
Double
saying
standard.
the same thing, and we're all like, yeah. But when Sue's doing it, we're all supposed to be like, Sue. And it's like, it's the same guy. I swear they're on the same album. What a dick. Like,
Yeah, I would say it's the same somewhat today still. I mean,
for sure,
there's less, I suppose, but
even that one, I liked it too, because at least the slut shaming part kind of gave Sue a bit of like her own, like, yeah, Sue's doing what she wants to, and she broke my heart. Like, damn it.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it wasn't as like, screw Sue. And then I remember just talking to this one old lady. She was just like, well, that sold me.
and then post-sex, post-coitus, then you've got fresh baked cookies.
Exactly.
They're oatmeal raisins.
Potpourris everywhere.
Well, interesting. I didn't really know if that was going to be based on true events, but I'm kind of happier that it was.
Yeah.
Shit, what else we got here? I've got a bunch of random stuff. Oh, yeah, when we were talking about film, you at some point were interested in acting, I take it, because I found a clip of you on YouTube. First light audition, role of Nathan. And you were reading for some, but you were quite good on camera. I found.
Yeah, and I think that was one, and I can't get it off because it was like an ex-girlfriend.
It's someone else's account.
Yeah, and I needed to, it was one of those weird auditions that they needed a YouTube link and not just you sending a file. And I was really dumb at the time, and I didn't have my own account, I don't think, or I didn't
This
know
was a long time ago.
Yeah, and I didn't know how to do that. So my girlfriend at the time was like, oh, you can just put it on mine. They didn't say, and I guess she made it public after we broke up, or...
And that's a weird thing to like email her like 10 years later, be like, can you take this down?
Exactly. So
I didn't have my mustache. I feel
Yeah. So I remember I found it actually, now that you bring it up, I found it last year sometime, and I was like, what the hell is this? And I was like, oh, because I've done a few. I wouldn't mind it, but like, I always feel so like, as much as I love movies and I love acting and I love a good actor, this and that, I always just feel so like, I'm just playing pretend. Like, it's so hard for me to like I want to be able to act, but that's why I want to write and direct my own stuff now, and maybe do like a Kevin Smith thing, like
immerse yourself in,
pop myself, or a Tarantino, pop yourself in as
Yeah.
a thing, but not the main.
Just have a cameo or something.
Yeah. So I could focus on like what I want.
John Hughes did that a lot too. Where
Yep.
he's kind of in the background of a scene. Or
Hitchcock
in the
would do
crowd.
that a lot too.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's a baller move as a director to
For
do.
sure.
I don't want to forget to talk a little more about Andre though, because you've got a monthly show now, right? The last Sunday of every month.
Yeah, it's switching up a bit. November we didn't do one. I was really busy with certain stuff, but now we have a December one, and it's not going to be on the last Sunday, just for this one, because the last Sunday of this month is Christmas.
I don't know if this episode will be out yet. So
Okay, well, if it isn't or
Anyways,
whatever,
people should look at Yuck Yucks whenever one of these shows is going
Yeah.
on. It's called I wrote it down.
that's comedy.
That's comedy. Fuck.
Yeah. Well,
Beat me
and
to
that's more of like kind of a reference to his first show. I did this show in the Festival of Clowns in Toronto, and it was called What's That? Because the whole premise of Andre is he crash landed in my backyard, and people didn't give a shit. Like just how during COVID, the government was like, UFOs are real. And everyone was like, I don't care. It was just
Sounds like a sitcom premise. Yeah.
yeah, it was so weird. So he crash lands and no one cares. And then so the show in Toronto at the Clown Festival was that like he found the gold record. That's actually what I brought today to
Okay.
add to the wall.
Nice.
So he found that gold record. I don't know if you know this or whatever, that NASA shot out the Voyager 1 and 2.
Yeah, and it had like the anatomy of human male and female and some other like essential things that aliens should know about Earth.
Exactly. And then like the only new pop culture song they had was Johnny Be Good. That was the only one. So that's Andre's favorite song. And so like the premise is he found it. He found the Voyager. He found the gold record and was like, I want to learn more about humans. And he came here and he started a talk show called What's That? And so that was the show I had at the Festival of Clowns. And then now morphing, and I had different people on it, and there was like a whole premise and different stuff. But now I'm like, I just want it.
It's like a late night talk show now. where you've
Now,
got a
exactly.
guest
It's just a
and-
late night talk show, and he has guests. They do their act, and then he interviews them after. So that's why I called it That's Comedy, as like kind of a reference, like answering the first show he had. What's that? Well, that's comedy. And so that's
Well,
what
and we
the show
should say
is.
that now, at least when I spoke to you earlier, you've sort of taken on a Paul Schaefer type character in Logan Brown, who
Yes.
has been on the show as well. Check out his stuff. He's an amazing musician.
So
and
good.
Hilarious dude. So that's going to be an ongoing partnership?
Yes. So the first one I did in the summer here in Ottawa, I didn't have that. And I didn't even realize that until I was doing the show halfway through. I'm like, what do late night talk shows have? They have the guy on the side.
There's always a band leader, yeah.
Always a band leader to riff off the top and then in between stuff or whatever. So I was just like, oh, what am I gonna do? And then I was talking to a buddy who made like the intro music on GarageBand, and I was talking to him about like, oh, maybe he could make different songs, but he doesn't live here, he lives in Toronto, and he's like, and then you'll have to worry about hitting play and like pre-recorded stuff.
Oh,
So-
yeah, it's got to be live.
yeah, and so Logan and I have done a few shows or whatever, and I really was digging his music or whatever. So I asked him like, "Hey, would you want to do that?" Like, and he was so like, "Yes, this is the type of kind of comedy I've been wanting to do more, and this allows me to do my musical comedy, but also riff a bit and
Yeah.
that." So it's been a perfect fit. And
Okay, I
we've
can't
only-
wait to see it, man.
Yeah, we've only done a couple together with him as the band thing, and it is the glue that the show needed.
Nice.
And he does like some musical comedy stuff, which gives me a little more time to prep other stuff under the table. Like, because I had some costume changes for our Halloween show. So having Logan be able to just like take it away for a couple of minutes was
Okay,
great.
this is a perfect segue then, because I want to know. You've told me, yeah, you do the under the table thing, but I wanted to know, first of all, like, what was the inception of the character? You said based around the pandemic, but had you?
He existed before that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this is kind of what I want to know. Like, when did you first sort of materialize him as a creature? And also, do you have any ventriloquism skills, or is pure puppeteering?
Pure puppeteering. Because I was trying that for a bit, but I found with a lot of ventriloquism, it's just a lot of talking and a lot of like very set up punchline. It was too similar to my stand up.
It seems fucking hard, too.
And it seems really hard. And like I'd get a couple words and they'd look okay, but then I'm like, I'm focusing too much on this.
pineapple.
Yeah, I was like, how's it going, everybody? Like I'm focusing too much on that. People will be focusing on like just the skill level of it, which is cool, but that's not what I
When you
wanted.
see someone like fucking drinking water and doing shit, it still blows my mind.
Exactly. But I was like, that's not what I want. I don't want people to go, oh, Bobby's good at ventriloquism.
Yeah.
I want people to go, oh, Andre's real.
Yeah.
And so like I loved the Muppets growing
More
up.
like Ed the Sock.
Yeah, exactly. And I love the Muppets growing up. And I saw some old clips of Jim Henson on shows where when he would be on it, like later on when they got so popular, Kermit would just be on and like the person would be under the chair and everything. And it would just be Kermit being interviewed. But at first, when Jim Henson was bringing these characters to life, he'd be on Johnny Carson, it'd be Jim Henson, and then he'd bring out Ralph or he'd bring out Dr. Teeth. And you'd just buy him. Like Jim would be talking fully like, hey,
You
how's
just
it going?
wouldn't pay attention to
Yep,
him.
you would just, and I was just like, okay. And then like that musical Avenue Q, where they have
Oh, yeah.
people just on stage with their mics in all black, and then the puppets walking around. And I was like, okay,
Which
like
they also did in Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
yeah,
Is,
exactly. And that's how
Dracula.
he got the Muppet movie. Because
Oh,
Jason
really?
Segel,
Oh.
because of that, they were like, oh, you have some of this inclination. What would you rather do? Disney had a meeting with him. He's like, I want to bring back the Muppets. And they were like, really? We own it still, but it's kind of not been that good.
No one really cares right
Yeah,
now.
and he's like, that's why I put the puppets in my movie, because I love the Muppets, and that's how he got that movie. And actually, his love for it inspired me more of like, I can do this.
and
I
the
really want to
opening
do this.
song from that movie was written by one of the guys from Flight of the Conchords who won an Oscar for it.
Yeah, he won an Oscar. Yeah, for
Now we're just showing off.
I
our
know,
factoid knowledge.
because that was a crossover of all these things I loved, and who doesn't want to be a cameo in a Muppet movie?
Yeah.
It's like Weird Al parodying your song or something. It's this like level of like, I'm in a Muppet movie.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? And so like the Muppets always, I love them so
They're
much.
timeless. Yeah.
And then I added just like a musical act with puppets at the end of my stand-up with just store-bought puppets. I had this Princess and the Iguana, and I did an Iggy Azalea song or an Ariana Grande where Iggy Azalea like guests or whatever. And then like the guy says it's like, I have one less problem without you or something like that. So like I'd have the princess doing Ariana Grande. I did the dude. And then when Iggy Azalea comes out, I had this iguana and she
man.
rapped. And I was just trying to get my puppetry skills, and people liked that. And I was like, because I didn't want to invest in something and then not.
There must be times when you go and you use the wrong voice on the wrong.
And that was a whole other thing to learn. And so then I'm like, okay, now I want to come up with a character. And then I was like, I'm always fascinated with space and aliens. I've always felt weirdly like I don't belong here, even in my own age groups at school with things that I'm supposed to like. And I'm always just feel like a weird person. So I was like, how do I put that?
The guy who called theater kids weird, was going to say.
Exactly.
Call you out
I'm
on
one
that.
of
No.
them. Yeah. And so like I wanted something to put that type in. And I was also finding myself getting very negative and getting very, and letting that part of my brain not make jokes anymore, but letting it fester and being like, fuck people.
But
Like,
a puppet is so silly that brings that
Exactly.
childlike exuberance.
So I was like, I need to bring that back because I'm losing it and I'm going to become a jaded comedian who I don't want to be that. And so then I was like, and for the first little bit, I didn't even perform with them. People were like, I saw that picture of that new puppet you have. Like, when are you performing with them? I'm like, that's for me. And they were just kind of like,
Emotional support puppet.
yeah. Like, you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm just like
Going through some shit.
going through some stuff. And actually, he was supposed to be named. The joke was like Hugh Man. That was his original name because he was just like had to come up with something really quick. But then my buddy Andre passed away. Andre Arruda, a really good buddy of mine.
He's a little person.
Literally almost the same size as Andre. And we befriended each other because, full circle coming back, he was on one of the Evening with Kevin Smith DVDs.
Oh, yeah, that's where I also know him
He
from.
was
Fucking
on the one where he came to Toronto and everything. And I remember seeing him at a stand-up show when I first moved to Toronto. And I was like, hey, dude, I saw you on... And I'm like, I don't want to
And he
sound...
tries to pitch a script, and
Yeah,
Kevin Smith
and
is
Kev's like, nope.
no.
Yeah,
I'm not
and
gonna
I
read it.
remember, and I went up to him, and the first thing I said, I was like, I don't want to sound like, hey, you all look the same, but are you from Kevin? And he laughed at that. He's like, ah. He's like, yeah, that was me. This and that. I'm like, oh, I love Kevin Smith. And he's like, oh, I like movies too. And then our friendship blossomed from there, and we would go to superhero movies together all the time.
Nice.
So when he passed, I didn't see. Sorry, I don't want to get emotional, but I didn't go to a Marvel movie for like 2 years after he
Fuck,
passed because
yeah.
it was like every trailer. I remember like my friend was like, "Why are you crying at this Marvel trailer right now?" And I was like, "Cause Andre was fucking looking forward to this one so much." And so I thought
I
like,
cry at Marvel movies just because my inner nerd is so happy from my childhood just being on screen. I have had those moments with Star
Yeah.
Wars too.
Oh, I've had Star Wars moments for sure.
Even like The Force Awakens. Sorry to cut off this beautiful
No.
memory. When The Force Awakens came out, it had just been so long since I'd seen a Star Wars anything in the theater that when Poe Dameron's trying to steal the TIE fighter at the beginning, and overall, I will say I don't really like that movie or the new trilogy that much at all, but I still like teared up because it was just like thinking about some new generation of kids and that noise that a TIE fighter makes and like all the weird, super nerdy shit that
Yeah.
like, you can't really explain to someone. You just have to be immersed in it. And
Exactly. And so when he passed, and I was like, fuck, what can I do so that I don't forget him? Not that I was going to forget it, but like, how can I say his name constantly? And then I was just like, my friend Meg.
You're honoring him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so my friend Meg Fraser, who is the creator of Andre.
I was going to ask if you built him.
I kind of helped a little design, but not much. I just kind of gave her some like, I love Yoda. I want him to be like gentle eyes. That's why he's kind of got like a little closed rather than like wide open.
He looks
Like,
very approachable.
yeah, like, hey, let's chat. And so
The voice too, yeah.
I just want him to be like, he's your buddy. And so I gave her that. She ran with it, and she's amazing. She's a makeup artist. She actually got on the Toronto Star cover during COVID. She would do body paints of like full on like characters. Sometimes like she would close her eyes and have Kermit the Frog.
I've seen these on YouTube and stuff.
Yeah, she's amazing. And so she basically made him. And then when he was done and everything is right around when Andre had passed. And so I was like, oh, fuck. This is obvious.
No-brainer at that point.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
Andre. Like,
Do you have backup versions of him in case something happens to this one?
no, and I don't know if he had it when he was introing for you. He had both of his hands on his table because one of them has 3 burn marks.
Oh.
Because 2 Halloweens ago we were doing a photo shoot. He was Phantom of the Opera, and we had all these candles set up. My girlfriend was taking pictures. We're like, "Ooh, that one looks good. That one looks good." And then his hand lit on fire for a second, and then I remember being like, "You guys aren't paying attention." And he brings it up all the time. Whenever he meets someone, he's like, "Yeah, that was from 2 Halloweens ago."
Oh, shit. That's funny. Yeah, it's almost cooler if he's got those battle scars. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So if you didn't watch any MCU stuff for 2 years, you must have had some catching up to
I
do.
caught up, yeah, and now I don't care as much.
Well, I think they've almost caused that themselves, which is like fine. Like I'm sort of getting to that point too. There was a point where I would always go, release night to see the new movie. And now I'm kind of like, I'll watch them when I get to them. As long as it's not something that I think is going to be super spoiler heavy, like to the larger universe. But, I keep up with the shows, but I don't feel the same inclination to have to be right
yeah,
on
and
it,
even with the Star Wars stuff, I feel that way now,
I'm
too.
shows behind on that,
Yeah,
too,
because it used to be like every few years. And same with Marvel. It used to be like a year a movie. A movie a year.
Now it's like at least 3 a year.
There's always a Marvel
And 5
movie
TV
in a
shows.
theater, dominating the theater. And that, as a movie lover, people are like, oh, you must love this Marvel stuff because you're a big comic book nerd, this and that. I'm like, I liked it at the start, and now it's a behemoth because it actually hurts the rest of the film industry.
And that's where you get these comments from like Scorsese.
And Tarantino, exactly. And like, people overtake what they're saying and they don't really listen to what they're saying because they're like, hey, people like me won't get their chances because of movies like
but
this.
Tarantino also said that Marvel stars aren't real movie stars, which I thought was pretty stupid because some of them have been in many other notable films before.
But his point was, and I listened to that podcast, his point was no one's going for them. No one went to see these movies. Like, if Thor got changed to more like mid-Thor movies, if they got another guy, no one would care. No, like there would be an uproar, but that movie would still make bank.
Oh, for sure,
That's
sure.
and
The
that's
engine
what
would
they're
keep
saying.
on chugging.
And that's what he's saying is that in the 90s, you didn't go to see Terminator, you went to see a Schwarzenegger movie.
Yeah.
And that's what he's saying is that like those stars don't exist anymore, and now you're seeing the star is
But we still have
Captain
The
America.
Rock. I guess now he's in a superhero movie too.
No, I know, but that's kind of what they're saying is that you're not going for that anymore. You're going for the character. People are going to see Captain America, not Chris Evans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is where, and then it's so funny because like the guy from 10 Rings lost his mind about it.
Shang-Chi guy.
Yeah. He's
Simu
like,
Liu,
well, I wouldn't have been able to lead a $400 million movie event. And then someone's like, yeah, he's making your point. No one came to see you, buddy. They came to see Marvel. And it's just like, and then even what's his name? Anthony Mackie said this same point, but everyone wants to bury it because a Marvel person said it and it doesn't help their argument. Like 5 years ago at a Comic-Con, he's like, you're not coming to see Anthony Mackie. You're coming to see the Falcon.
See, I don't know that I agree with this completely, only in the sense that I think that the way that they've got spot on casting for a lot of these characters has been a huge thing where, like, if they did replace Thor, it would bug the shit out of me. First of all, I hate when they fucking do that, like in any movie where they switch out Rachel Dawes is not Katie Holmes anymore. Now it's Maggie Gyllenhaal, who looks fucking nothing like her.
But look, no one gave a shit because it didn't matter.
It bugged the fuck out of me.
I know, but you still
I still saw The Dark
went.
Knight, of
That's
course.
that's the point that these people are making, that people are jumping down their throats about, of is just like, no. It's like, this is what it is.
But
And
to
it's-
that effect, I almost think that that's a beautiful thing, that if you're going to see a movie because of the character, wouldn't that be great if that was all movies? If you were going to see something because the character was so compelling, not because Tom Cruise was starring in the vehicle.
and that's where it kind of like, it's like a bit of like, it's good and bad. You know what I mean? And
that's
so
just an interesting thing to talk about. Yeah,
for sure.
I'm
And
not-
but then that's where, as a film lover, I don't like it anymore because it dominates. I just went to, like, there's 4 movies I want to see right now. They're lasting in a theater for 2 weeks, even though the movie is doing well and getting good reviews, but we need to push it out because Black Panther needs 4 theaters in a theater that has 12.
But
and
on
I
the
get
flip
it
side
from
of
a
that-
financial point of view from the theater, but then they're not even all full. That's the
But
annoying
the flip
part.
side being that all these big Marvel movies, and like take Black Adam movie that just came out. I know it's not Marvel, but it was a hugely successful.
It's in the same vein. I
then-
put them all in the group.
In only like a month or whatever, it's like going to be available on streaming and whatever. So I think that's also just the way things are trending because of post-pandemic. They're like, not everyone wants to go back out to the theater yet. Like, more people are coming out in larger numbers, of course, but there's still, I think, a lot of hesitant pockets of people. They're like, I got used to watching shit in the comfort of my living room. So stuff goes from theater to video a lot faster than it did pre-pandemic.
For sure, but then that's where it dominates both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because then it's like, this one's in theater, now watch it here. Well,
Yeah,
this one's in
all
theater.
the ads you're
and
seeing.
then all these, like this one movie I want to see really badly right now, The Banshees of Inisherin. And it's the director who did 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, and he did 7 Psychopaths and In
That
Bruges.
one I've heard of. And that one.
Yeah, and it's Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell again, the 2 from In Bruges.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been in theaters for 2 weeks. And I was going to go this weekend, and it's gone because Black Panther, Black Adam, and now these other, like, this is the best season for Oscar bait stuff.
Yeah.
So, like, Fableman's, the new Spielberg one, pushed it out, and all these other
with
things.
Seth Rogen's in there, right?
In The Fablemans?
I believe so.
Oh, he might. Yeah, I think he's an uncle or something. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. But yeah, and that I'm really excited for. But,
I know my stoner actors.
but again, that's only because Spielberg's established, so he's going to get a theater spot. And Tarantino, they're established. And so it's funny. It's like these names are speaking up for the little indie ones. But people think it's just an old white guy being mad about stuff where he's like, Tarantino's a lover of film. He wants to see more movies that aren't just this. And he even says it in that interview, and no one will give him credit of like, if I was in my 20s, I'd be loving this. I read Marvel. I was a Marvel nerd. In Reservoir Dogs, there's a whole speech where Tim Roth goes off about the guy who looks like the Thing. Like his the boss, the guy who's running the robbery, looks like the Thing. So it's like, Tarantino's a nerd, but he's like, I'm an older guy now. This isn't for me. And so as a film lover, it's not helping film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I see the point for sure.
Yeah.
And I also think that this is all victim of just how social media manipulates and takes tiny little clickbaity portions of interviews and misconstrues things and sort of.
But I'll also even argue, like, not to take up too much more of this time or whatever, but like, they're not even that good of storytelling machines anymore.
Yeah.
The first few were, and it was cool, but now they're
pretty hit or miss.
They're hit or miss, but they're also just filling in gaps that they don't tell full stories anymore. You can just go into Iron Man knowing nothing and enjoy it as just a movie.
Yeah, they
you
try
can
to
go
make it
into
palatable
Thor,
to
a Captain America, the first couple sequels even, and just they're movies. Now they're trailers for the next movie, and people want the end credit.
Or you need to have watched 4 Disney Plus shows.
Exactly.
To get all,
and like, who's that? It's like, oh, you didn't do your homework? It's like, well, then you're not good at storytelling.
Yeah.
You are in a comic book world way in this universe it is, but just as a movie, it's dog shit. And you're not telling anything. You're just telling a thing that people go, that's the thing I want to see.
Unless it's like a new character with its own unique origin story, then they can kind of extricate it from the larger...
But even then, those aren't even good anymore because they have to shoe in so many other characters.
True,
like
yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy got to be its own thing when it came out. And now when things come out, it has to have a character from Phase 8.
They just had the holiday special, which was...
Yeah, exactly.
It was okay.
Yeah, and it's like,
Have you seen the holiday special thing? So it's like 45 minutes. I finally watched it all last night because I watched the first 15, 20, and I was kind of so. It's not bad, but it's kind of made me realize how much I don't really love Drax or Mantis as characters. They're both just like these...
they
children
fit in
lost
their
in
scenes.
Yeah, but this whole thing is focused on them. So it's like 2 aloof, sort of buffoon-like characters, which obviously is due to the fact that they're aliens and they're not exposed to our culture or whatever. But I just get tired of them being all wide-eyed, and just the way Mantis talks is fucking annoying. She's like, but we need Peter to have a great... I don't know. I just found it kind of irritating. There was some musical bits in it too, which were not bad, but... I'm not a huge musical guy, so I just felt like, I kind of want that 45 minutes back. Cosmo the Space Dog was in it, which was kind of a highlight for me, but they just released the trailer for Volume 3 also yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
It looks pretty cool, yeah. I mean, I'm a sucker for, like, I can understand all these points, and there's been a few that I've walked away from going, that was not so great. But overall, I always have some little kid version of me in my head who's like, yeah, but... You're seeing this, you know.
I know. And I wish that's where I wish sometimes I didn't have that voice in my back of my head being like, this is dumb. Like, I wish I could have enjoyed the Civil War like everyone else did. But I felt like an old man where I was like, it just felt like I was watching a kid play with toys. Where it was like, now Spider-Man has Captain America's shield. No, I'm Captain America. Ooh, Ant-Man's really big. He's really small. It just felt like watching a kid, which is
an amazing scene.
It is. And I wish I could have, been like that the same way I was with the first bit of them, but I was just like, I guess I'm not like
just one of my acid.
One of my favorite movies of the past 5 years was this one called. This is how I tell people like. Also, here's where I'm coming from. One of my favorite movies of the past 5 years was Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which was a subtle French film in like Elizabethan times of this lady getting a portrait drawn from this other woman, and they slowly fall in love with each other, but they can't be together because of.
That's the thing. You're a film guy. You've made that very clear up to this point.
Yeah.
You're not like the blockbuster popcorn guzzling.
But I still do.
Yeah.
And I like the Mission Impossible movies. Those are some of the absolute greatest action movies. That's a series I keep up with. Like I know we were talking about Tom Cruise earlier, like sometimes that, but he delivers.
He does all his own stunts and shit.
The Mission Impossible
Doesn't
movies.
age.
Yeah, there's any Top Gun Maverick.
I haven't seen it. I've never seen the original Top Gun.
I just watched it last night, Maverick, and it was terrific.
It is amazing.
I heard you don't need to have seen the
You
original.
don't. You don't.
No? You think I would like it if I've never seen the first
Yeah,
one?
you get enough backstory. That's fine. It's good.
Like I think I'd seen Top Gun once on TV when I was younger, not a big that type of movie guy, and then went to see this exactly that. Weirdly enough, it was because Tarantino was like, that movie gave me faith that the big blockbusters are still around. And I was like, really? Okay. And I saw it by myself. I went to see it in IMAX because I knew that they filmed some scenes. And I only see IMAX movies if they actually film with the camera.
Yeah.
Or else it's just a money grab.
Yeah.
They're just being like, give me $6 extra to sit in a bigger theater.
Well, they have like moving chairs and rain
That's the
spritzing on you.
D-box ones and then the 4D ones. I tried that once and it was dumb. For
Someone said
Spider-Man,
that it was like spilling their drinks and shit.
and it was times when you don't need it. I was seeing Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and he's on the bus talking to someone and it's just a scene for character and they make you feel like you're on the bus. I'm like, this isn't the time I
kinda
needed
get
to
that.
feel like I'm in the movie. It's when he's swinging around. So I've only done that one once, but IMAX. And I remember seeing Top Gun just being like, at one point went, woo, like was so into it, this new one, that I was just like, oh, and yeah, it's propaganda if you want to look at it from that point of view.
What,
Of
for like join the Air Force? or
yeah,
something?
like pro army. The bad guys are just interchangeable. Like all the movies from the 80s, you know what I mean? Like
Get us someone brown.
yeah, okay. This one was cool. They just put helmets on so you didn't see it all. Like they had like
Oh, that's cool.
dark helmets.
Ambiguous, yeah.
Ambiguous. It was just like, I'm like, okay, cool. But then it also made it more propaganda. Like, who cares who the enemy is? Let's just fill them full of lead. But it made me go like, yeah, let's do this. Like
Yeah.
it was such a fun, like good time. Like I find he makes the funnest like
Now I have to see
actiony
it.
movies.
I already wanted to see it, but now I have to see it. Shit. Okay, I'm gonna try to go. Oh, here's one I wanted to ask you. But I do want to talk to you about Weird Al. But before that, I want to know. I've noticed in your social media, you've had ample nudity, and I just wanted to know if you are actually like a nudist or is it just for comedic effect. I'm also gonna grab my vape, so camera's on you.
Cool. Yeah, it's been like I wish I was more of a nudist in the sense of like did it more, but just no one I know does. So I save it usually for that camping trip with the guys.
Yeah, I was
I'm
gonna
the
say,
one.
what is the most not intense, but the most formidable nudity you've ever thrown out into the world?
So that picture, actually, the one that's my profile, where I'm like,
It's just
from behind,
cheeks up.
and like Andre and I looking out into nature. That is at Bear Oaks, which
Where's
is a naturalist resort about an hour north of Toronto.
Okay.
So it's like you go in and it's like a camping. It's people live there year round in their
Even the winter?
yeah. And like it's like a little trailer area kind of
Nudist
thing.
in the winter seems kind of.
I know, and it's just more like when you're inside and everything like that. Like they still all own clothes and everything. There's actually a really funny like how do naturalists clothe up, and it's the opposite of how we do. So like it's basically like if you're cold out, like when we're out,
Socks on your hand?
no. The order, your junk is last. So like us in public, it's like under like if we were out swimming. Trunks are on or whatever, and then you'd put a thing on and slowly go that way. It's like if you're cold out, you put a shirt on first,
Oh.
and then the last thing is that because it's naturalism and
I just
everything like
want it
that.
to be out as long as possible.
Well, it's just like it's making it less and less. Because at first I went just because comedian Leanne Mladen does comedy shows out there, and she did an all-woman show, and she couldn't do one month. This was years ago, and she's like, "Hey, I know you've done strip shows and different stuff. You're okay with your body. Would you want to do this thing? But like, you have to be naked the whole time. Like once you get there, there's no voyeurism.
all the performers were naked.
All the performers, all the people there, like you get there, you go up to this little cabin, check in. You can like in the summer they do day passes, and there's like tenting areas, and there's a whole other area for people to like. People spend like weeks there, like different.
Okay, well, I have a big question here then, because this is something I've thought of even at the beach regular now, is with the commonplace of like HD cameras on phones, and no one, like I saw a guy when I brought my kids to the beach, and he was there by himself, and he was probably just reading something on his phone, but he could have easily been taking pictures of every chick or guy or whatever he wanted to fuck and jerk off to later.
And that is kind of the problem with it. So that's why a lot of naturalists have to kind of make a like going into this place. You can't just drive in. You got to be like buzzed in. And then you get there, and then they make you, if you've never been before, they make you watch a video about like, what is naturism and everything. And it's like, this place has staff and other people, and everyone there is for this. So right away,
Are there boner police?
well, but there's actually, if you go on there on Bear Oak's Instagram and everything, they have different pointers of what to do, and it's like, it's natural. Sometimes you'll just get one, and like the deal is you just like kind of cover it up.
But if you get a record, like
It's actually like safer than a lot of other just random parks where people are just like there doing fucked up shit. You know what I mean? And talking to a lot of women who have gone there, they're like testimonials kind of thing. Like, I felt safer here than I have just in public in regular society. Like, we think just a layer of clothing, everyone's good and proper. No. People are horrible to people all the time. We're fully clothed. And it's just this like weird world where it's like that gets all stripped away. And then we were doing like these different, like I was there for a weekend this summer and it was Body Fest. And so like I was doing some improv stuff and everything like that. But then there were different like spiritual things and different getting in touch with and so I was just like talking to this 50-year-old guy. We're both just naked or whatever. And like
I could probably hang out naked with some random old dude, like, and warm
it's
our nuts
it's a
by the
different
fire.
world, and it's not for everyone 100%.
Yeah.
But like it's one of my favorite times a year every summer when I go to that
I guess
place.
I feel bad because I know a girl who lives in Europe somewhere now. I knew her in high school, and she posted something on her social media in her stories or whatever, and it was she had clearly gone to a nude or topless beach or whatever, and she later found this on some porn site, some creeper from the bushes who had been just like filming her with her tits out, and now that's on the internet.
Yeah, and that's something that's like this place is really good at monitoring that stuff. Like even when I was there this summer for a weekend, some guy was around taking pictures. They got him right away, got his phone, deleted them all. Of course, you don't know what.
Yeah, you never
what I
know
mean?
what made it out is what I'm saying. Like,
but then it's also one of those things. It's like if you're comfortable enough to be walking around in the woods, I don't think you care.
not a lot of places to hide your phone either if you're fucking butt ass.
That is the other thing. It's very obvious and very clear when
They've got Ray-Bans though that have a fucking camera right in them now.
But then it's also one of those things where it's just like the jump to of it, like it's just one of those things people go nudity, sex. That's when I figured it out after hanging out there a couple of years. Like not full years, but like going there for a weekend, coming back the next year of just like, oh, this is just a different lifestyle. It's just how different people raise. And then like, oh, some of these people are fine.
Well, it's like if you were to go to tribes that are still existing in remote areas of the world today.
Exactly.
Are you going to go be naked because it's fucking hot and they're like,
and that's their culture.
Yeah, that's just
it is. And I find that's a North American thing of like people have different ideas of what our culture is in North America.
Well, it's such a melting pot.
It's exactly. It's a hodgepodge of so many things. So people go, we don't do that here. It's like, sure, you don't.
Yeah.
Who gives a fuck? Like, good for you. You go over there and you do your thing, and these people will do their thing.
I don't care if people do this. I'm not against people doing different stuff, whatever you're into. But I feel like just the appeal of being naked is I like being naked, I guess, if I'm having sex or I'm in the shower, but I don't feel the urge in a day. I like clothes. I like fashion to some degree. And I just would never feel that compelled to be like, I got to get somewhere where I can be fucking naked. I'll just take a shower.
See, and for me, I've been that friend in the group. Like at a party in the winter, let's go streaking.
Let's go skinny dipping or whatever.
Yeah, let's go streaking. Let's get that. And it's never a sexual thing. It was never
I would have been the guy that always would have been like, this guy's fucking horny or something.
And I had a couple friends like, Jesus, Bobby, put your dick away or whatever.
Well, it's also the community sticking up for the group of people that I'm with going like, hey, maybe not everyone's comfortable with that. And now you're putting people on the spot.
And that's what I had to learn because I was a idiot teenager and realizing like, oh, maybe people don't want to see that.
Find a group of people that all want to do this.
Exactly.
And everyone just like, dicks out, let's get in the lake.
Yeah. And like there's this big dance party at night that they would have outside with like laser beams and stuff.
I get pretty into dancing. That seems painful. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, it would, just slapping around.
Yeah, I mean.
But it's so, and at first I'm like, do I want to be naked all the time? And then when I'm there, I'm just like, this is awesome. And some of the conversations I had.
Good to swim naked, I will.
And some of the conversations I had with certain people kind of blew my mind because then when you approach someone, a lot of it has to do with, without us even realizing subconsciously, is like how they presenting themselves. And so once that's gone,
that's what job interviews are all about, man. First impressions.
Exactly. Dates.
Or meeting in-laws or
anything. Exactly. It's like what you present yourself with. So when it's just you, and that's just your body. And you can't go like, what brand of shirt is that?
Yeah.
What is this? What's that? And
But
then,
what if they go, oh, you're a weird nipples guy? You know, it can go the other way.
but then you do look around and go like, everyone's got fucking weird bodies.
Yeah.
Like, and it also normalizes like you'll see a super hot girl and you're just like, oh yeah, that's just a body. And you'll just see
Or like, this guy's ripped, but he's got a 1-incher.
Yeah. Or like,
Now I
this
don't
guy.
care about not having abs.
Exactly.
Because the ab guy has got a small wiener or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
It
could see
does.
that
It
being
just
liberating.
levels the playing field in this way of just like chatting with people that I probably wouldn't have went up and had a conversation with, but we're all just naked out here. So, and it kind of brought me back in this way of like, oh, this is how we were first. We didn't
Yeah.
care. When did we get shame? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because that's what a lot.
Sometimes you just got cold, I think.
Well, 100%.
And then some people started going, hey, this jacket looks pretty
This is
cool.
very
I think it
nice.
could have gone that way too, you know?
But then that's also another thing of how horrible the clothing industry is and everything too. I do see the up point. You still have to buy clothes. Like
Yeah.
these people live in
In a
Canada.
thrift shop or whatever.
Yeah, and they still have to go get groceries in town and put on clothing and everything. You know what I mean? They're not always like like they're not flashers where they're like
Yeah.
pushing it on people.
Who have said, I don't want to see this. I'm in a public space. I'm
Exactly,
not here for this."
exactly,
Yeah, I guess if
exactly.
you're going to a place where everyone's like on the same terms.
I'm fucked up for so many different reasons, and like maybe if I was naked with my parents every once in a while at camp, and I know that's the weirdest jump too, but do you know what I mean? Of like my parents
You
were
have to be
fully
vulnerable.
My family was fully clothed, and we're all fucked up. So being naked isn't like this.
Why did it have to be
addition.
the clothes though? Yeah. Maybe it was something completely
But
unrelated.
maybe if we all stripped down, we went, oh, what are we looking?
So-
This is me sometimes when I say something, I'm like, I don't know if I've done enough acid or too much in my life.
I'm just wondering if the only thing that you're really there for is the naked 70-year-olds. Well, because they would probably be in higher numbers. I think as you get older, you get more
There's a lot,
comfortable.
and that is a lot of
because you just don't give a fuck.
That's
You're
it.
like, yeah,
A lot
I know
of-
I'm gross, whatever.
Or it's a lot of like adult, like older people getting to a point in their life, and instead of doing the mushroom thing that I did or something, trying something else that liberates them. And so I've met a couple of women in their 50s there that only started going there recently. Because it's this
something new and
liberating
exciting.
feeling of like, yeah, fuck, I've been told, especially a woman, I've been told my whole fucking life that every part of my body's not good enough and I have
Yeah.
to do this and dress like this and do this and I can just go somewhere and just be this and
Yeah.
be accepted. Fuck yeah. Like,
Yeah, for the record, that's kind of what I meant. I didn't mean to imply all old people are gross, but I assume I already know this somewhat that the older you get, the more you're able to look back at some earlier version of yourself and go, "Oh yeah, that's when I was really in my prime."
I'm already doing that
Yeah, well,
from
same here,
with my
yeah.
20s and I'm
Or
only
it's pushing me harder to keep like doing extra push-ups and shit. Because I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, we gotta really try to.
But I
fight
find
this
a lot
thing.
of times like the people that like kind of are the most are just okay with their bodies are the happiest.
Well, and sometimes it's a very attractive quality, or I would say almost always when someone is confident.
And that
general.
was not to jump back or whatever. That was a lot of times when I would be hanging out with older women and when I was single and everything is the confidence level. Because so many so many times when you're with someone your
You know
own
what they're
age,
looking for.
they know what they're looking for. They know themselves.
Yeah.
they're not.
They're not here to fuck around.
Yeah, and it was just like, oh, okay. I like the honesty.
Yeah.
like. Because that was the thing in dating I hated so much. It's like, yeah, putting on this whole, hey, here's the best version of me,
Yeah.
which is good. You want to put out your best qualities, but
holding
also
in your farts, and hiding your porn, and
all that
like,
stuff. Where it's just like old ladies are like, fuck that, I don't got time for that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Or they're embracing it.
yeah, like this is awesome.
Like, I want to smell that fart.
yeah,
That's a commitment fart. Someone's probably into fart fetish.
Oh,
it's
those-
got to be a thing. I know
those-
shit, like that's one.
there's a fart one,
Scatological.
like farting and like saying like, ooh, sorry or
Fart in a
something.
cup. Well, there's chicks who like sit on cakes and stuff.
Yeah,
and it's not
yeah.
even like nude. It's just
Just-
it's, what are they called? Squash videos or something? Where
Yeah.
they step on food.
And just ooh,
So weird.
so weird.
Crush videos. I think that's what they're called. Okay, well, I do want to talk to you about Weird Al because I know, you've got a Weird Al shirt on. I gathered online that you, just from researching you a little bit, that you were a huge Weird Al fan, but you also got to meet him. You also did something before a show called Weird Al Jeopardy, which is like Weird Al trivia, I take it. But
Yeah.
I like the connection to I Lost on Jeopardy, which is a parody of Our Loves in Jeopardy. If anyone's never heard both of those songs, go check it out. Anyway, so I wanted to know if he really is as awesome in person as he seems, because I have been sort of in some don't meet your heroes situations that left me stinging a little bit. So, was he really the marvelous man he appears to be?
Yeah, if each time I met him was in a meet and greet situation, like he's there for his fans and everything, so he's going to be in a good mood or whatever, or else he wouldn't do this.
But you're like kind of the next one in the line.
Yeah, but he's really like, I've met him 3 times now. The last one with that picture with me and Andre, that one was during COVID or post COVID. So there was like a thing in between us, like a big sheet. So it kind of lost a little of like the magic. And I had brought my nieces and my nephew to this one. And so I was a little bummed. They were super excited, but they didn't know what the original meet and greets were like pre-COVID, where like there's a picture of me and Al where I have my arm around him and he's signing a poster and it's on a Polaroid. Like, we're super close. This is pre-COVID and everything. And like had a little mini conversation as he's signing my thing and everything. And I was like, I love your music. I kind of went into comedy like because of this. My buddy and I had a 2-man band, and he was just like, cool, what was it called? And I was like, oh, we were Han Shot first, and we wrote a song like from Han Solo's point of view, telling all the old things. He's like, oh, that sounds like a pretty cool thing. I'm like, I'm having a conversation with Weird Al.
Yeah,
like,
it was very brief and kind of...
Yeah, but he was just like, loves his fans, because he knows he would not have the longevity of a career if he didn't have nerds like me going out and buying every album since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
To continually throughout, I have all 14 of his studio albums. Like,
yeah, we had all his cassettes when we were kids.
Yeah, I had cassettes, and now I've updated all of the like CDs and everything.
Well, we used to tape off of when he would like come into Much Music and kill the
take
VJ
over Al TV and edit the interviews so that he'd make whatever they were saying, and he'd make a weird thing to it.
The Paul
and
McCartney one was the best, I swear.
So
People need
many.
to watch that.
The Moby one's pretty good too. There's like a lot of them are really good, and his concerts, like, he's done so many different ones, and I've seen each variation. Like, he'll do one when an album comes out, and I've seen like Bad Hair Day. That was like the first one when I was like a little
like 96 or something.
99 was that one.
Was it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It was the first time he came to Thunder Bay, and I saw that one, and I've gone to them since. And Mandatory Fun was when he like broke the internet in 2015 with a new video on a different site every day. And I went to that big concert, and he had the costume changes and everything. And then after that, he did the Ill-Advised Vanity Tour, where it was basically for fans like me, where he played all B-sides and all originals and not the parodies, and no big costume changes, just the band.
Wow.
And then he did, right before COVID, Strings Attached Tour, where each city he went to, he got their orchestra, whatever symphony orchestra each city had, and played behind him.
Wow.
And it was like, that one was in the Molson Amphitheater in Toronto in summer of 2019. And then obviously he had to take a break because of COVID. And then he just did this summer, where that picture online is of the Ill-Advised Vanity Tour, the return of it. And so he was playing all B-sides and everything.
Damn,
and
man.
He is like a musical genius, like to a level that people think like, oh, the guy who does parodies. And I was like, no, the guy who understands music and comedy probably more than any person.
Yeah.
Because he's given me appreciation for music that I would never have probably listened to. He's managed to parody every genre of music, and perfectly. Like, name a band that can play Chameleonaire and the Beatles.
Well, that's the thing. It's not like they're just taking the tracks and singing over
they
it.
are
Like,
playing everything. And
Bermuda Schwartz, isn't that?
Yeah, John Bermuda Schwartz on the drums. He's been the first guy ever. They played their first song in a bathroom. Another one, Rides the Bus, with his buddy playing on the accordion case and Al just playing on the accordion. And every person who's joined the band since has never left. So they've never had a replacement, because the guys are like, this is the funnest I've ever had as a musician. And Al is amazing. His fans are amazing. And it's the most family friendly, even though some of his stuff is dark. And that's why I think I liked it as a little kid, because it felt like, I don't know if my parents know what they're
like The
giving me.
Simpsons.
But
You get
even a little bit
bits of-
more sometimes. Like, one of my favorite songs of Weird Al is like, I Remember Larry. And it's this song of this prankster. It was like, I remember Larry would like drop my pants and take pictures, or put like cement to my toothpaste. And just this weird joker in the neighborhood. And then the last verse is like, oh, I pulled one on Larry. He kills him, puts him in a garbage bags, and goes and buries him in the woods. And says all of this in the song.
Oh, he has one about Santa killing
Santa, the
everybody,
night
too.
Santa went crazy, and it's like killing all the reindeer and all this. And I just remember being like, and all my friends were listening to like Eminem, and they're like, well, this is, I'm like, you guys checked out Weird Al? Like, you think putting a lady in a trunk is anything? This guy is murdering reindeer. Like, I was like, this is badass. Like, and everyone would forget about that, because it's like, oh, he's the eat it guy. He writes songs about food. And I'm just like, he's a genius.
Yeah, I think he gets written off by a lot of people for being silly and goofy.
And I think now he's getting his time more than ever because all these people who loved him growing up are now famous and in stuff.
this
and
new movie.
He's putting in. He got put in Tim and Eric show. He was in Tim and Eric show sometimes, popping up all these little cartoons and everything because people. And then now, bigger than ever, and he got his
own
weird,
film.
Yeah,
I still need to see it.
I know, and as everyone listening or whatever is gonna be like, it's been out for a few weeks and I haven't seen it yet.
My
People are
dad's
like,
seen
what?
it, I think. You haven't seen it? No, neither
Because
have
I couldn't
Okay.
find it the way like
That makes me
Roku's
feel
not
better.
available here in Canada, and I'm really bad with streaming stuff and everything. So I need a day where I just sit down and enjoy it. So I will obviously watch it.
Well, it's
but-
got really good reviews too.
yeah. It was the year of like my two favorite people got joke movies made about them. Nick Cage's movie came out earlier this year.
I wanna see that, too.
The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Yeah, with Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, which I was mad because it was very similar to a script I was working on, and I went, he would have probably made mine. Like that's insane.
soul
Like,
crushing.
yeah.
Oh man. What are we on time? Oh shit, we're way past. They're already off to the mall. Okay, I guess we can do whatever then. All right. I wanted to talk to you about basset hounds. I know it's kind of a weird switcheroo from Weird Al.
awesome.
But it's the dog that always was kind of the breed that I wanted the most, and I never got one for several reasons, just life or whatever. But I had also kind of been pushed away because people had said that the shedding was terrible, which my current dog is terrible anyways, so that's not a deal breaker. But the drool I had heard, and that you have to like clean their wrinkles on their face. That's what I was told.
And so, yeah, that is like,
it,
we knew going into it because my girlfriend, Erica loves the breed of basset hound. Her dad has one, and just like, they like that. And so like going in, we knew that we're going to have to clean her ears weekly because their ears are so low to the ground that they just pick up stuff and then stuff crawls in it. Like not actual little bugs, but bacteria and
You get
stuff.
that black gunky shit in
Yeah,
there.
so it's just a quick, like once a week, squirt something in there and wipe it out with a cotton ball. And like there's two different breeds. There's the European Basset Hound and the American Basset Hound. And they're very similar, but the European one is a lot more wrinkly and jowly and a lot more drooly. Whereas in the American one is like, she's got her jowls and everything like that, but not as much. And she's not as drooly. She is only a year, so it might increase. The shedding, yes. It's
hers is
like I have two
nightmare.
cats and I thought that was bad, but keeping up with two cats is so much easier than it's like as she's moving, they're just falling off of her.
I fucking hate it, honestly. Like our newest dog we've only had for a couple of years, and I love her, but holy shit, she's half husky. I think that's where she gets it from. And like we have a purple little area rug upstairs that we usually work out on. The coffee table's there, but we move it and then we do our home workouts or whatever. And every fucking day, pretty much, I need to vacuum it. If I go more than 2 days, it just looks like half white.
Every day I have to sweep our kitchen and living room and then vacuum every 2 or 3 days in the couch.
Which is fine when you have animal lovers over, but as soon as you have someone over that you know doesn't have a pet, you feel like human garbage.
Yes,
You
I
feel
know.
like they're just judging the fuck out of your house.
I know. I
instantly.
actually have to do that. I'm like, who's coming over? Oh, she's got a cat. We're fine. Like, who's coming over? Oh, they don't have anything. Oh, let's do a little tidier.
For real, though, yeah.
It's insane.
Okay, well, maybe I will still get one day then.
She's
but I'll
great.
make sure I get a North American.
And the good thing is that the temperament. Like she's only a puppy, but she only needs a few walks.
Like a Rasta right after a fatty. Or
Yeah, like
something.
she's get those bursts of energy in the zoomies. Obviously, she's still a puppy, but they are kind of considered the cat breed of dog breeds because like she is like my cats, where like they'll sleep a lot. She just sleeps with them kind of thing. They like her now.
Yeah, I couldn't picture like a hyper basset hound.
Like she has those bursts, but then
short-lived.
yeah. And one good walk in the morning and one good one at night, and she's good. Or a really good dog park play, she's good for the day. And she's just like
I'm so jealous of that.
yeah, and her big paws and her ears are just, she's a constant, like, walking joke. Like, you can't be upset. Like, I'll have, like, a bad day or I'll just be in a bad mood. And her just walking, I'm just like, what are you?
Yeah.
Like, your paw, like, look at, and it's so funny if she's beside a beagle or something. And it's like, here's the dog, and here's someone took it in Photoshop and was like, I'm going to make your ears big and your legs short and your paws fat.
cartoonish,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's so, like, she shouldn't work. Like, as she's, like, walking and waddling around, I'm like, you look animated.
Something unreal about
Yeah,
this.
there's something about you that shouldn't be able to, and that's the one worry is that like they do have like not great backs, and so as she gets older, we got to make sure that she has like to get on a couch or whatever, she's gonna have
Step
to
stool.
steps. Like we have a little ottoman that
I used to have a wiener dog, so
Yeah,
I've
you
been
know
through this,
that's a problem with
Although
that.
surprisingly, we were told we would need that, and he was still jumping up on the bed until the day that he died.
Yeah, she's pretty energetic and jumping, but just her weight itself, she's a bit bigger than
Yeah,
a wiener
that's
dog.
true.
So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
gotta, as she ages, just so she doesn't like topple and twist something bad. Like as of
Yeah.
right now, she's still a puppy, so she's fine and jump. We have this little ottoman that she uses to get on the
The
couch and
golden
everything.
years,
Yeah, she's so funny.
or the Bobby Knauff years that we could call them. Not with dogs. I'm not saying with dogs, but okay. I've got one or two more here. These are like kind of quick fire questions.
Let's do it.
One, do you have a question or no? I wasn't sure. My dad thought that this one was starting at noon today, so I called him at like 9 or something.
I did have a comment back when Bobby was talking about the Marvel movies, but you guys are going at it, so because I couldn't interject. But so I'm a comic book guy, right? And what I would say is, I think the Marvel movies took from the comics, because the comics do something that I just hate, and I've hated it for years, and I love comics. And that is, they'll start a story and they do a crossover, and or they'll introduce a character and you go, okay, that's good, but you don't get much backstory. And then the next issue you read, everyone's got all this presumed backstory because it's in some other issue of something else. This was all fleshed out. And there's so many comics.
So many different titles you have to
I
follow.
can't buy them all. And I'm a fairly okay guy. Like I've got like 11,000 comics. But Jesus, I can't keep up with my major guys the changes and I think they're doing the same damn thing in the movies.
Yeah.
And it's all about making you buy more.
And watch more and watch this mini series.
And that's what I hate, because I know they have to make money, right? I know the obvious, but they take it too far and it perverts.
Don't be so blatant about it too.
It perverts the art.
Yeah.
And I think it happens in books. It happens in a lot of different things. And I hate when marketing and sales and trying to make money overtakes the art. And that's what's happening. Anyway, other than that, like I agreed everything you said about those intro movies, the first Iron Man movie. I was over the moon when I saw it.
It was awesome.
I think I'm in the middle of you guys, because I don't like what you're saying, that you have to like have all these interconnected stories where you have to have seen everything. I don't like that as a principle. But when I've gone and watched all of these things and just watched them as their own and tried to like disassociate from the little connections, I've still overly enjoyed most of them. So it really depends, I guess, how much appetite you have for it, because it'll be there if you want it and it's not if you're not. But there's not a lot of series or movies that Marvel's put out where I was like, well, that was fucking terrible. Like, I still find things that I can take away. Much like Star Wars. Like, there's a lot of Star Wars movies that I really don't like that much, but there's still moments or scenes where I'm like, fuck, that was badass. And
But it's the same like what you were saying though about like when you're reading a comic book and you're annoyed of like, I have to go read all this. That's why when I'm a big comic book nerd too. I'll find someone who wrote like a little contained story.
Yeah, like
like an artist
trade
or
paperback
a writer
from-
I like. Yeah, where everything in it is here's the start to finish. Or like I read a lot of Image stuff now, like Image comics. So I'm not even reading Marvel or DC.
Yeah.
Because Image comes up with like a lot of different stuff that isn't even superhero like.
Yeah.
Like just cool little stories.
Well,
And then-
Vertigo did some of that too.
yeah, I loved Vertigo for a while. Now they're
But that's
DC
an offshoot
Black
of
Label.
DC. Yeah.
Yeah, Vertigo was the best. They put out
Like
100
Fables, I think they did.
Fables, 100 Bullets, which is like one of the best written comic book series I've ever read in my life.
Wow.
That was Vertigo, and I'm pretty sure Why the Last Man
Yeah,
was
that's-
also Vertigo.
okay. That was the last one I was gonna say, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Image did Walking Dead, didn't they?
Yeah, that's what helped them like launch into just Vertigo. Also did one of my favorite Jeff Lemire ones, Sweet Tooth. It's my favorite comic
We
book
just
ever.
watched the first season of that, and it was fucking amazing. I haven't read the book. But
Oh, they're amazing.
Invincible was really good. Going back to Image, sorry.
Yeah, that's a Robert Kirkman one. But anything Jeff Lemire does he's my third. I guess I don't post about it as much, but it's like Weird Al, Nick Cage, and Jeff Lemire. I read everything this guy puts out, and he's based in Toronto. I've met him a few times, and he's now having his time. Everything he's made is being made into something. Like Sweet Tooth just got made into Netflix, and this other one, Essex County, he just filmed in North Bay, and Gideon Falls that he made is turning into something. Like he's really exploding.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm hoping Sweet Tooth gets another season. 'Cause
I think-
I watched it like as a family with the kids, and everybody
It's
liked it.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's cool. They did enough different than the comic that you can appreciate both for their own. I definitely recommend picking that up. There's like 6 collected issues of it.
For trade paperbacks and like self-contained stories in the Marvel vein. Have you ever read Old Man Logan?
No, I've been told that one's...
I think it's Mark Millar, if I'm not mistaken. The guy who did Kick-Ass and stuff, I think. I might
Oh,
be getting that.
yeah. I think it has. Yeah. I like his stuff. I love his stuff. I find though,
maybe it's not him.
With one-offs, I read more for whatever reason DC, just because like the people I like I read a lot of Batman by Tim Sale and like The Long Halloween and stuff like that, and then Frank Miller's Batman, and then Alan Moore did The Killing Joke.
Yep.
With that one was really good.
I'm aware of these. I haven't read. I read the one where there's like the calendar killer guy. Is that Long Halloween?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I read that one.
And then Hush is a really good one from early 2000s, and that was Jim Lee and I think Brian Azzarello.
Is that like some guy tries to be Bruce Wayne or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's cool. It's really, and the art with Jim Lee is one of my favorite DC, well, just general artists, but he did a
Well, he was X-Men #1, like the biggest selling.
He got me
comic
back
of all
into
time,
comics in high school when I saw a cover of Batman doing like a kick across the night sky, and I was like, "What is this?" And then I just got right back into comic books. Was buying individual issues, but then I had to stop because they did that again. Where I'm like, I gotta buy fucking 18 of these and this and that. I have like 6 long boxes in my apartment.
Do you remember fucking? I think it was like 96 or something when they had the Marvel versus DC thing.
Yeah.
Like you could like send in ballot votes on these individual fights, and then eventually they made.
My brother had a few of those because I was still a little younger, and so like a lot of them ones I had were either like secondhand or stuff like that, and then I started getting into them in 2000s again when I started buying new stuff, and like that. Identity Crisis that DC did. It was a huge event. A murderer was within the DC world. They were picking off superheroes because they knew the secret identities and the loved ones of certain superheroes. So they were
weird.
It was an event.
Who was it? Spoiler alert.
It was like someone's wife. It was like a B character's wife or something. It was
underwhelming.
really cool though. It's a cool mystery one because I liked it because it was like it took away everyone's powers basically. Because it was like you don't know who's
Ralph Dibny's wife.
I think it was.
The elongated man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, in the early 2000s, it was an event. I remember being like, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it because I would be like at the comic book store when they were opening it up because it was only a 7-issue thing, and it was like a Who Shot Mr. Burns kind of moment for comic book nerds in the early 2000s.
Who Shot JR?
Yeah, man. I'm not as up on my DC knowledge.
Yeah, it was actually I gave that out as one of the first prizes at one of Andre's show was the collected issue of Identity Crisis because it was like it's one of my favorite like really cool, and the art. The guy I think Alan Moore did a couple of the covers. It was not Alan Moore, Alex Ross.
Oh, Alex Ross.
Oh, they just look like. I think you have a couple. I think I might have seen.
Oh, the Alpha Flight poster or no, the New Mutants is him.
Yeah, I was about to say. I'm staring at it the whole time.
Yeah, I guess that's the one. Yeah. I don't know that I have anything else of his in here, but
yeah.
He has a way of making superhero characters that seem always like out of this world. Like you can see the fabrics of their costumes and the strands of the hair, and like there's just something
makes them almost very real, but still very unreal and godlike.
It grounds things in some way that I very much enjoy. Yeah, and they're just beautiful. The anatomy is correct. That's one thing that fucking drives me nuts. I don't know why I'm swearing so much about comic books. I'm very jazzed.
You're into it.
Yeah, there's I find a lot of people on Instagram or social media that you can follow that just post a lot of comic book stuff, and they'll say, "Oh, check out these great." Artwork of Spider-Man or whoever it is. And I'll enjoy them overall, but until I start to analyze it. And then you look and you're like, people's arms can't bend like that. Or why is this knee so big? I get that it's perspective, but I find people will totally overlook that and just look at, oh yeah, Batman, cool.
Yeah, for sure.
But really, to be an artist where you can really, really get in there and try to examine it and analyze it and go, yeah, no, this is flawless.
And then because I've gotten into more really, I like when someone's really good at it. I also like when it's a weird, different style. Like Jeff Lemire writes and draws, and his drawing is a very, I wouldn't say simplistic, but very almost like not super realistic, but realistic in its own way. And
you
so
just have to be consistent with your own world.
And so like when Sweet Tooth, I first picked it up, someone recommended it. I was like, I don't know if I like this art. And then halfway through, I'm like, I love this art.
Yeah.
It's
perfect for this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so like he'll write stuff and get someone else to draw when he feels it's necessary, but he'll draw a lot of his own personal stuff. And like He'll do really cool sci-fi stuff. He did Black Hammer as his big comic book kind of world. That's in, I think that might be a Dark Horse. But then he'll do very personal one like Essex County is all about like this Northern Ontario town and like different generations dealing with like alcoholism and hockey and all this like really like real shit. And like he'll draw those ones. Sweet Tooth is like one of his sci-fi ones that he wrote and drew.
Yeah.
And that first got me into him. But like I have everything of his pretty much if you ever want
Yeah,
to.
I'm going to have to look into him more.
I have a lot of the other ones I've mentioned. I can just like bring you a stack to borrow and be like, there you go.
Right
like,
on. Yeah. I mean, I don't find much time to read. I've been doing where I go to the library and just get all these.
Yeah, I did that
comics.
for a bit too because I was noticing I bought all of Why the Last Man and then all of 100 Bullets.
Oh, yeah, it's so expensive.
And I'm like, this is expensive and just space. And certain ones where I'm like, I don't want all of the boys, but I want to read all of the boys.
Yeah.
So I would go and get that or Preacher or
I recently started
Metropolitan.
the run of, I can't even remember who writes it. Good Lord. A couple of things. One is Superior Foes of Spider-Man.
Ooh, I've heard of that one.
It's like all these like loser villains of Spider-Man.
I love those ones.
And they call themselves the Sinister Six, even though they only have 5 people. And they're like, no, that'll be the mystery. They'll be wondering who the 6th member is. I think it's like Boomerang is the leader. So right there, like what a loser character.
I love when they use characters like this.
We've got Beetle, but it's like the new Beetle. It's a girl Beetle instead of the original. And then there's who the hell else is Shocker?
Oh yeah, Shocker's one of my favorites
Speed
as a
Demon.
kid.
And then there's some guy I'd never heard of. I think they made him up for this, or he's very recent, but his name is Overdrive. And they never even really explain how his power works, but he can take any like vehicle and just kind of like change it.
Cool.
Yeah, they just show little like stars around.
What's the other thing that you read?
The other one I just started was I think it's Dan Slott doing Silver Surfer. But the reason I was pulled in is it's Michael Allred, who's just his style. That's another one of my favorite comic artists.
Nice.
The Ecstatics. I don't know if you ever read that.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but I've seen a lot of his work because he's a cool.
Yeah, he did a run on Fantastic Four. I think it was just called F4 too, and he's just a lot of humor. But the art style is so his. His main one was it was an independent thing way back in the day when he first got on the map. I think it's called Madman or something like that. You know what I'm talking about from the 80s?
Yeah.
I can picture him. He's got like a lightning bolt on his chest or
in
something.
a white suit.
Yeah. I think that's all read. And that
So
was
you're
one of
reading
his.
a lot of like superhero stuff still.
Yeah.
But still, I mean,
well, no, I have read Why the Last Man. Oh, sorry, I was not pointing at the board games. I was just
referencing.
Yeah. No, I've read Why the Last Man. I read Fables, which is not superhero-y. It's definitely still fantastical.
Oh yeah, I have the first I think 5 or 6 of that one. Oh, a really cool guy I got into over the past few years is Rick Remender.
Oh,
he does a lot of.
He did a run on X-Force.
Yep, and I love his solo stuff in Image. He does Black Science, which is one of the cooler, headier, like sci-fi things I've ever read of these guys finding like a portal to different. That thing that's really popular right now. Spider-Man did it in 2 movies now, the cartoon and the other multiverses and everything. But it started a few years back, and it's really, really cool and heady and everything. And then he did like Deadly Class, which there's now a show on FX.
They always get adapted, I find.
Yeah, and one of my favorite ones, and the guy's only done, I think, this and like one other thing is Chew. And it's this Image one. Have you read Chew?
I'm aware of it. The guy he takes a bite and then he absorbs the memory. He's a detective or something.
Yeah, and so he can eat something and knows everything about it. So if
Not
he takes
something, is it something or just flesh?
anything.
Oh, anything.
So like if he takes a
Okay,
bite
okay.
of a hamburger, he immediately knows
where the cow
came from, what the cow went through, where the lettuce came from.
Wouldn't
and
that be
everything.
overwhelming?
Exactly. So he can only eat beets because for whatever reason, canned beets give him nothing. So this guy's always mad because he can only eat beets. And then they figure out once he accidentally eats a finger of a human and is like,
How do you accidentally eat a human finger? I got to stop you there.
or it's like the guy finds out he has this thing, so like makes him eat it.
Oh, okay.
For the first one ever, I can't remember. It's like it's gone on for a long time, so it's done now, and it is
sounds
really
great.
goofy, but really like good. Like what I didn't read it at first was the cartoon style looked almost like Cartoon Network-y and like really childish.
Dexter's Laboratory or
Yeah,
something?
yeah, or something like that, and too big of like a guy, way too heavy. Like we were saying
With
about
these
like
tiny little legs.
Yeah. And I was like, and then the comic book, the woman who worked at the comic book store, she knew my taste, and she's like, give it a shot. We have a sale on the first issue, like the first collected issue or whatever. Like, give it a shot. Trust me. And I came back and I was like, you got me. I'm in. And then every time after a new collected one would come out, and it's such a cool.
That's a really cool concept.
Yeah, and then throughout each like stuff, you'd introduce new people in this world that have different abilities with food and stuff. So someone writes a review, and when you read her review, you feel exactly what she's writing. So when she writes a review and it's really good, you taste whatever you're at home like, I can taste it. But if it's bad, you're throwing up at home. This guy's a master of making things out of chocolate to the point where they're real. So if he makes a car out of chocolate, the car's functioning. If he makes a sword out of chocolate, it will kill you. Like it amplifies it up, but it doesn't start doing it too quick. Like other things do, like this guy's got this, so now everyone has a thing. It's like this guy has this.
Slow burn.
Yeah, and then by the end, each new person is having a thing, and there's like a crazy vampire. It just gets, there's aliens by the end, chicken's illegal. It's the wackiest, so much fun I've had reading a comic in the past like 10 years. Like,
how many issues so far?
It's done now, and it was 10 collected.
And they probably each got like 4 to 6 or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he just started one up. I didn't notice because I haven't been up on my comic book news lately. He started one up with it's Chew. So Chew is spelled Chew. It's the name of the comic, but he's Johnny Chew, spelled Chu.
Oh.
And now there's another one with his sister, and the comic's just spelled Chu. And there's like 2 collected issues of hers out. And so I'm interested to check that out.
You definitely know your stuff. I'm going to say, and we've said it on this podcast many times, that if people are not into comics, we lost them a long fucking time ago.
If someone doesn't like comics, I
know
lost
I should do the chapters on the YouTube, but I don't have time, honestly. So
we've jumped back a few times. You know what I mean?
No, but there is that thing you can do so people can just like, it'll say,
yeah.
You know, burgers, and you can just click there. But that kind of annoys me too. I like long form stuff. Like you got to listen to everything if you want to get the good bits.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm going to get to the rapid fire questions because I do think we've been probably rolling for a while now. If you're making a pizza and you can have 3 toppings, obviously cheese and tomato sauce is included if you want that. What would they be and why?
3 toppings?
3. I feel like that's the average amount when someone's sort of...
I'm a 2 guy.
Oh, you're
I'm a 2 topping guy because I find with pizza, the more toppings you get, the cheese doesn't get to evenly...
Feta cheese could be a topping. You could just add more cheese.
Yeah, that's the thing. But I also don't like too much cheese.
Okay, so yeah, for the purpose of this, we will say that extra cheese would be one of the 3 toppings.
Yeah, and see, I wouldn't because I'm even that guy when there's a deal on a Domino's thing, get 3 toppings. I just cap it off at 2. I won't even double up on one because I like So 1 topping, nothing.
Okay.
Has anyone ever said that?
I've never asked anyone this, but maybe I will.
1 topping,
recurring question.
Nothing is the topping, and then pepperoni and pineapple.
So sort of a Hawaiian.
Sort of a Hawaiian. But yeah, I like pepperoni more than ham. Or at least most pizza places have shitty ham.
Yeah.
And so if it's a higher end pizza place, I'd get a ham. But then also if it's a higher end pizza place, I want to taste their pepperoni.
Okay, well now I feel like I have to make this a recurring segment. Only because I fucking love pizza. Like ask anyone I know. Like I'm very much a pizza fanatic.
Love pizza. And I'm one of those pineapple on pizza.
I was going to say the fact that you're starting it off with that, and I also do like I'm going to give everyone my 3 toppings. Please I do order 3. So it's the sweet, spicy, salty pizza. So it's sweet pineapples, spicy hot peppers, or jalapeno sometimes, and then for the salty I throw green olives.
Ooh, so no meat at all.
No, I don't really eat meat. I haven't had. Other than fish, I haven't had meat in like a decade.
Oh, nice. I try not to have too much, but I do love a pepperoni pizza. But I find just a pepperoni pizza is too plain.
I don't mind the fake pepperoni. I'm not going to lie. Out of all the vegan
I'm not against it
products,
either.
They spice it to a way where I feel like, smell is so important in what you're tasting.
Well, pepperoni isn't a thing anyway. It's just a bunch of shit put together and then cut up anyway. So if it's just a bunch of other different things mashed together properly and taste well. I used to work at a vegan restaurant in Toronto. I loved everything that they had.
I honestly prefer vegetarian stuff than the newer stuff where they're trying to imitate meat, like the Impossible burgers and stuff. I'm like, no, now I just feel like I'm eating meat again.
And also, if it's like at a fast food place, the whole point of eating fast food was because it was quick and easy and it's going to be gross. If you're trying to healthify it, I'm just going to eat it better from somewhere else. Yeah. Why would I want a shitty burger?
Yeah.
But I'm not eating, but that's what people want.
Twice as much.
Yeah, it's just a weird, but yeah, I worked at a vegan restaurant, Hogtown Vegan in Toronto, and they were like pub style food. And so it was like fake chicken wings and fake all that stuff. But the way they
call them chicken.
Fake, yeah, all that stuff. And I was just like, this is all spiced well and made well. I'm enjoying it. Like, It was good.
Yeah.
But people take a hard stance either way. I always find
I'm
it
not
so.
that guy.
Yeah, I find it so like, oh, is this part of your personality?
I hate the fact that I'm technically a pescatarian because it sounds so hoity-toity, like I want that title or something. But
yeah, but it's just like, well, it's the closest to what I eat. This is the label that is the closest.
it's like I don't know. I don't love eating animals for my own reasons, whatever. Not something that I judge other people for, but fish they're still on the almost like how I would feel about eating a bug, which I don't really want to eat, but I don't feel much of a connection with this animal in a way that's going to fill me with guilt or moral, complexity.
Because they have no facial muscles.
Yeah. So but I turned that into a stand-up bit at one point about how, I would say that, I asked my dad because he was a biologist and I was saying, well, I eat fish because I don't think they can feel pain. They're too stupid or whatever. And my dad then says, no, I knew a guy who studied fish specifically. And he said that they determined that they 100% have the pain receptors to feel that pain of the hook in their face or you killing them, whatever, but they don't have the muscles in the face to express that they're in pain.
It looks the same as it's swimming around as it is on the hook.
Well, yeah, so I would usually end the bit going like, so next time, you see a fish and you're just taking the hook out of his face, just know that in his head, he's like, God fucking damn it.
Yeah, the same way when someone's like killing something that's not dead yet, they're like, put it out of its misery. And it's only because it's like, if it's a deer or something. Yeah, but a fish is just flopping around. Everyone's like, look at this asshole.
Yeah,
Like,
they'll just laugh about it.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, next quick one here. I came up with this and I was pretty happy with it. I think I might know after the Weird Al stuff, but if you were to become a wrestler, I think they're called. See, again, I'm not a sports guy.
wrestling guy.
One of those wrestling guys. And you were coming out, what would be your entrance song and why?
Ooh.
Because some people go with the bravado, I'm so tough, and some people do kind of a funny thing with it and show that they're light and fun.
I think I would enter to classical music, actually. Because I'd want to...
Smoking a pipe.
Yeah, to really flip it on its, like...
That would fuck with your opponent, I bet, if you just came out like...
Just come out like, oh, I have to deal with you.
Yeah.
Like this riff-raff on my front porch. Like, all right, like,
Your
put on
name's
the
gotta be
bait.
like Sir Beatdown or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And then like I have a nice robe covering it because they all have robes usually, right?
Yeah.
And something. So I'd have it all like done up properly
Maybe
with
a walking
pipe.
stick.
Yeah,
of some
like
kind.
what's this or whatever, and then ditch the pipe and the walking thing because classical music gets intense.
Yeah.
Usually it starts like and then like by the end like bum 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 bum. So at one of those big bum 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 bums, I toss the cane in the pipe and reveal my outfit and then just take them
Which
down.
peasant will I be fighting?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that was a great answer. Something you've never told your parents.
Oh,
And even better if it's something they wouldn't want to know. I won't send them the link to this.
they don't. We don't have a great relationship.
Okay, shit. Well, now it's not a
No.
fun question.
This is good because if you had a good relationship, then it's gonna be something like, oh, they don't want that.
Yeah, well, I've met you once, so I did not know that.
That's fine. That's why I'm like, they're not gonna hear this. They're not gonna see it. Something I've never told my parents.
Yeah. Don't make it sad now, like I love you or something.
No, that. Because I tried to be pretty honest with them about the sobriety stuff with all that and how I did it with acid and how I did a bunch of cocaine and everything. So now I'm wondering, like, what haven't they? What don't they know? See, I'm a little no, because I think they've seen pictures on Facebook and stuff like that. What haven't I told them? I don't know.
This question is a dumpster fire.
I
now.
know this is good. No, this is
Got all
good.
sad, and now there's no answer.
I've never told them. No, it's gonna.
You slept with a 72-year-old woman?
Probably
We could go with
that. Yeah, probably that. I've slept with someone older than
If
them.
it was your mom's friend, it would have been even more.
That would have been amazing.
Maybe
No.
that would explain why you don't have a great relationship.
No, yeah, that I've slept with
fucked
someone
Diane.
older than them. Yeah, that would probably be it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll leave it
because
at
that's a
that.
new bit too. So yeah, they hadn't seen that or anything. Yeah.
This is just one that I asked once. I think I found online, but it's actually, I think, a good question. Anything that you wish I would have asked you today here? Even if you just want to plug something.
No, I wish we would have, because we talked a lot about Weird Al and stuff like that. I wish we would have got more into Nick Cage.
Oh, shit. Well, you do have a picture of Nick Cage, so we can do that right now.
Well, because you said to bring something, right? For the wall. So,
but then you mentioned the record. I thought these were attached when you first had
Oh,
them on
no,
the
no.
table
So
here.
Andre brought something. So this is like because there were 2 sent out. So he has both. And we actually have I spray painted a proper record for the show that
So
says.
is this the old one you used to use?
This is from
that
What's
warms
That?
my heart.
This is from the original, and this was his steering wheel on. I had a whole spaceship made out of an old. Just was too big to keep, so I got rid of it. It was an old hamper, like an old laundry hamper that I cut out the bottom so that he could be driving. Just put on 2 wings, and then this. That's why there's a Velcro thing on the back.
Oh,
this
amazing.
was his steering wheel on his thing, and then he busted it out and put it on display on his desk.
See, because when you were describing this earlier, I thought this was just like a proxy you just threw together. Maybe I didn't think this was the
original one.
That's
And it was
cool.
just my friend Morgan, who helped do the first show. She spray painted and everything, and we painted it so that it was part of the show. And now I have a proper actual record from a record, it's an old Julie Andrews Christmas record that I found. So I spray painted it gold and put That's Comedy. So it's just been on my wall.
Nice.
So now this is going
well,
to
and the fact that it has Velcro, we've actually got those little strips you can put up on the wall.
Yeah.
with the
So
adhesive.
perfect. And so that's Andre's gift. And then for me, I brought a sticker of Nick Cage because I got these in Toronto from one of the Nick Cage film festivals that had to be paused because it happened mid-COVID. They were doing an old B-side Nick Cage movie every week for a month in March of 2020. And I only got to see 2 of them. It was Peggy Sue Got Married.
I saw that I went on Kyle Brownrigg's Best Actress podcast where he talks about Oscar winners.
Nice.
We
Yeah,
watched
I
all
just
the
did that
movies.
one.
Oh, you did as well. Okay.
Yeah. I just did it. We did the Kate
And
Blanchett.
that was one of the ones I had to watch.
Oh, nice.
And I brought a sound clip of him saying, "You mean my wing?" I don't know if you know the part I'm talking about.
Yeah. Because she wanted him fired.
Well, because he was Coppola, or he is Coppola's nephew or something, right?
yeah.
And that's why he got the part, people said?
Yes and no, a little bit of obviously his uncle, that helps or whatever, but he was making weird acting choices at that point, and his uncle's I want to give him more of a lead because he was in 2 of his earlier ones, The Cotton Club.
The one where he eats the bug or something?
Well, that's not a Coppola one, directed one. That's
okay.
Vampire's Kiss, and that is one of my favorite.
Very good.
Cool Nick. Oh yeah,
Yeah?
it's a really cool, really interesting movie. It's a lot smarter than people think it is, and it says a lot more. And it's for now time too. It actually says a lot about male bosses with female. It's really, really cool.
Wow. What's the one where he says, "Not the bees"?
That's The Wicker Man,
Oh, okay.
which is also hilarious. But yeah, he did a bunch.
The Weatherman, too, right?
That's my favorite. That is my all-time favorite Nick Cage ones. And people are like, really?
It's
And
just
I'm
a drama, right?
It's just a nice, slow burn drama. I'm actually been in need of watching it lately. I'm every couple of years, I'm oh, I need The Weatherman.
It came out when I worked at Rogers, I believe.
Nice.
2003 or something like that.
2005, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was probably just before I left there.
Yeah. And that one's one of my favorite ones. But he is just my all-time. That's why I wish I wish we would have chatted more about Nick Cage. Because I go off on him forever.
We'd probably get back into comic talk with him too. You know?
Yeah, he's a huge.
Well, the Cage name he took from Luke Cage.
Yep.
Right? He's
and
a Coppola.
he almost played Superman in Tim Burton's Superman movie that just
the one that never got made.
Nope,
yeah.
but there's found footage of him in a hotel room with
Testing on the. Yeah, I've seen that.
And then he finally got to play Superman, but as a voice in the Teen Titans Go to the Movie
Oh, cool.
cartoon that came out in the
No, we saw that in the theater with the kids. Yeah.
in the same year that he was Spider-Man Noir.
Oh yeah, that's
Because
true.
he's in the best superhero movie. That's, in my opinion, the best superhero movie ever made is
Spider-Verse?
Spider-Verse.
I have a real soft spot for it because my son loves it, and it just really is a great
It
film.
is the perfect adaptation of a comic book.
Yeah.
And also
Funny.
does what I wish the third Spider-Man movie did, which was let's go to the extent of what this world can actually do. So the cartoon was Spider-Ham, a little girl and a robot Spider-Man, Spider-Man Noir. These 3 ones that should not work on paper.
Yeah.
Let's do that because we can. And then what does they do? We're just going to get Toby and Andrew Garfield back. We could have went to any... That's where those movies just the magic of the movies is
Yeah, but to be
lost
fair,
on me because I'm oh, you just put in this one. You put in this one that we all agreed were garbage movies, but because he's back, we're we like it again.
That's
And for me,
oversimplified.
same with those movies, not to jump back into those movies are so hard to enjoy because you see the money making aspect of it.
Yeah.
Infinity War worked on me for 5 minutes. When they all start disintegrating, I was actually holy crap, Marvel, you're doing something. And then I was like, I just read an article where this person signed on for 3 movies. This person signed on.
I hate
so
that
like,
part too.
I can't be lost in the magic of the only one. And to this day, I'll defend, and people think it's one of the worst ones, is Iron Man 3 is one of the only Marvel movies that managed to actually surprise people.
Because of Ben Kingsley's whole...
Yes, and everyone hated it because they were like, that's not the Mandarin. I'm like, that's the point of a movie, is to surprise you.
But then people loved it when they brought Trevor back in Shang-Chi. So.
Yeah. But still, for at that moment in time, that one is my favorite.
Because they took a really bold choice.
And you get to see him have to be Tony Stark again when he has to build an Iron Man suit out of nothing. Yeah. And that it's Shane Black also is a big reason why Iron Man 3 works, because he wrote and directed it. And that guy...
I just didn't like Aldrich Killian as the villain. Or
yeah, when they did that thing. But I did still like it that they like, he's been a part of this and blah, blah, blah. It does have a third act that all Marvel movies do. But I was actually like... And it has my favorite moment in a Marvel movie with a non-character when Iron Man's about like killing all the guards, and the one guy just puts up his gun. He's like, I just started working here. I don't know what they do. It's so weird. And then Iron Man's like, okay, you can leave. He's like, oh, thank God. It's like one of the best like throwaway things
Random
ever.
Dude.
Yeah. Sorry to keep going back to that.
No, not even. Well, yeah, I guess we got some Nick Cage in there.
Yeah, snuck him in.
You can make the next visit be a Nick Cage themed one.
Well, yeah, we can do this again.
Yeah.
I do have a season 4 ender question that I end every episode with now. We've only done once for this season with Jesse so far. But what is the worst job you've ever had, and why? Maybe you already touched on this. If you
no, the worst job I've ever had, and it wasn't even the worst. Like I've put up siding in the winter. Like I said,
okay, that's what it was.
I've been a dishwasher, all these other things that are like either gross or I'm sweating or I'm sore afterwards, but it didn't do something to my brain. I once did temp work, and like I worked for a temp agency in Toronto when I first moved there, and they'd send you out to do random stuff. Most of the time you're like a fill-in janitor or a nothing, and just something that requires very little training for a couple of weeks, filing something for someone because they have too much shit for a week, but they don't want to get a new employee. Anyways, and it was this one where it just made me realize like I didn't know this existed. So I was working for a Canadian Tire, but it wasn't a real Canadian Tire. So they have a warehouse that just has a Canadian Tire in it, like a fake yet real Canadian Tire, that all the stuff is stocked. So how it's like, so they know what it looks like in other stores and stuff.
Weird.
Yeah. And it's like, it's a fully functioning store, but it's not a fully functioning store. And there's no entrance to it. It's in this warehouse. So if you were just, when you drive by industrial areas and you're just like, just big blank warehouses, you're like, I don't know what's in there. It's probably just this, that. So it looks like just one of those buildings. You go through regular things and then you're in this really tall thing and you're like, all of a sudden you're like, this is the outside of a Canadian Tire, but I'm inside of a building.
Oh, weird.
And then you go through doors that are like a fucking thing. And it was just like, what? And so what we were there for was around Christmas time.
That's so weird.
And like they were deciding on what products to sell in their Canadian Tire. So I guess, and what we were, me and my buddy, all we had to do, so these people were in this warehouse in a different separate room off to the side. They had to decide what they were going to be stocking the things with, but they had to physically have one of each thing so that they could look at it and touch it like that. So they just had all these boxes with one of everything. And these people were too lazy to get the stuff out of the boxes themselves.
They hired a crew.
They hired 2 temps to come to a room that they were all in sitting at their desks. It's all light shit too. It's all stupid little ornaments. Nothing was like these huge, all the stuff was also brought into the room for us already. It's not like we had to go and put it on a crank and bring them in. Just went into this big room that was divvied up into like desks, no cubicles, but just a big empty room with desks and then like tables for, these are all ornaments. These are all wreaths. These are all.
Just setting it up.
And just literally fucking.
So they just had the budget money for like 2 extra people and they're like, fuck it, I don't want to do this shit.
And it just, everything about what I learned that day still to this day upsets me about how we do things on a big scale to sell shit. Like,
dude, even to like a larger point about like work ethic, it honestly bothers me. I don't work at the hospital that often, but a couple shifts a week or whatever. And I work fucking hard when I'm there, partially because I think it passes the time. But I've just never really liked to be that kind of person that just fucks the dog. Like, I find that more boring than just doing the fucking work.
Exactly. Like, I'm already here. I can't do what I want. Like, I can't sit here and read a book unless it's like one of those jobs where you're just sitting at a desk or something. But like, I can't do that. So why wouldn't I do the work that's same with when I worked at a movie theater and people would just be slacking. I'm like, isn't that more boring than just going through each aisle, sweeping and they'd go out of their
people will go to
sweep it under. I'm like, you're still fucking sweeping. You're insane.
Just change what the work is.
You're so insane. Like I would,
true.
It's funny. I got promoted to a supervisor at 14 at the movie theater in Thunder Bay because they were like, fuck man, you care. I'm like, because I go to this. I go to the movies. So when it's a sticky, gross floor, I'm like, what the fuck? You have one
but it's
job.
the larger point of you saying like it's just as easy to do the thing.
Exactly.
That's what it's really about.
That's the thing. Or they'd go and they'd have to mop something, but they'd go out of their way to get a mop and pretend to mop the thing. I'm like, you're getting the mop. Like, I feel my blood boiling because I've been that since I was a kid. That is just one thing. Just do your fucking job.
Yeah.
Like, it's so...
And if you hate it that much that you have to keep finding shortcuts, get a different job.
Get a different job.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm glad we agree on that.
It's such a thing that just irks me.
I'm a staunch believer of that 100%.
Yeah.
Through.
It's so weird. And so like that irked me for
I think it's something
weeks.
that's learned though, because I can remember other jobs when I was much younger where I was definitely that other person. And I was always trying to find a way to like half-ass it, and I see it now in my son because he's that age. And he's a brilliant kid and he's a sweet boy, but I do see him cutting corners sometimes on the basic day-to-day tasks where he's got more important shit to deal with, and chores or whatnot. And I think, I was that guy too. You just forget, or you learn, or you adapt, or whatever it is. But then also,
he's also doing things that he has to do around his. Like, I'll do that too. I'll avoid things I need to do for myself or whatever. But it's not. That's because I have all my choices.
But you're getting paid.
That's
too.
what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm at home and I have my choices. Your son has his choices. He has his room. He has his toys. He has all these other things that he could do. Whereas I'm at work. I'm in this uniform. What the hell else am I gonna do?
Yeah,
I'm just gonna do that. And I would go out of my.
You can't leave.
Go out of here, and I would do that. I remember I was one time in the summer when I was 14 working at the movie theater, the garbage bins were those metal cylinder ones. They were just nasty. I don't think they'd ever been cleaned since the movie opened in 99, when we finally got to Silver City. So this is like 2004 or whatever. And I'm just like sitting there scrubbing, and the guy's like, one of the managers was like, who told you to do that? I was like, nobody.
Yeah, and then they're like, overachiever.
Yeah, like one of the guys was like, oh, we're going to promote this guy. I wasn't trying to do that. I was just like, it's matinee in the middle of the day on a Tuesday. We're open all day because we're the only movie theater. No one's here. There's only the one kids movie that is busy today. I'm going to lose my mind.
So I'll take it a step further. Even at my current job still, I'm the guy who I love to just have a shelf full of work. And then the night goes by, listen to a podcast or some music or whatever, and maybe talk like here and there, but generally just focus on my work and like literally challenging how many sets can I crank out and stuff like that, But I'm also, now I'm losing my train of thought. God damn it. I'm the person that if there isn't that work to do, I will be like, hey, can I go home? Because especially if it's like an overnight and that 2 hours of sleep is more valuable than going, I'm doing this and trying to pretend this one thing is going to take you 2 hours. And that's
just cut me. Yeah, I'd have certain jobs like that. I'm like, cut me. I don't care. Or say, you don't want an extra hour pay? I'm like, I'd rather go do something I can do than not sit here because there is nothing to do right now. Yeah, I've had certain jobs like that where I'm like,
oh, and speaking of Canadian Tire, I didn't want to forget, I don't think I've talked about this on here, but one of the worst jobs I ever had was being like a fake shopper. Oh, where you have to pretend you're shopping, but you're actually looking for people shoplifting for minimum wage for 8-hour shifts. And that's probably one of my worst ever.
Yeah. I used to dislike those people at the movie theater when they would have secret shoppers because it wasn't to see if people were stealing. It was to make sure the theater would hire them to make sure we were all doing our jobs properly.
Oh.
And I got a talking to, it was a new manager came in and they were like, well, Bobby. And I was like, oh, I'm going to nail this. I'm awesome with the customers. I like remember regulars. And I was a ticket ripper. And then I got, like I said, bumped up to a supervisor and I would run the kids' birthday party sometimes. I'm like, I'm a star.
You're
like
natural.
This review is going to go like, Bobby, you own the Silver City. Like,
your manager.
Yeah,
then.
exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, sat in there almost, I swear to God, like went like this. And it was a new person. They were like, well, we have something to talk about. I was like, and I was so like, nope, not even like, oh, did they catch this? Did I steal something? No. I was just like, she was like, so when you greeted these people, you didn't say, hi, welcome to Famous Players Silver City. And I'm like, yeah, what did I say? It's like, hey, how's it going? Thanks for coming. I'm like, yeah, because we're the only one in town. And I'm like, that's for cities, that's from head office for cities that have competition. I'm like, I could literally tell them, fuck you, as they walked in. And if they want to see a movie in Thunder Bay, this is it. Like, that's branding that we don't need to do because our city does not have.
Or it's certainly not worth like penalizing someone who's doing an otherwise good job.
That's what I kind of said. I was like, oh, I didn't like look down and then look up at them and rip their ticket. I gave so the woman wrote, but they just have to do their job. You've got
a big smile and you're being welcoming. Like,
exactly. And she just has to do her job. What did the person say? So she even wrote down like, oh, he was very polite and very this, but did not say. And then I got to talking to her. I was like,
so dumb.
And that was like my first like inkling of like learning of like, oh, even when I go like above and beyond, I'm like making this place nice.
Yeah.
I didn't do the stupid thing that only matters to you. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like no one, people were probably even weird. Like, yeah, I know I'm at fucking Famous Players, buddy. Like, it's the only theater in town. Why do you keep saying it? The ticket person who sold me it said it. And now I'm the second person. I'm like, they've already been said it once. Like, this is insane. But it's like, nope, it's branding. And you gotta. And
I've had the same thing at my work too, where, you know, someone will say, oh yeah, that's oh my God, I'm totally fucking blanking out now. I think
we've been chatting too long. I'm so sorry.
No, not even. I just can't believe I'm brain farting so hard here. I'm literally just gonna call it. Clearly, it's a sign we need to call it.
We can go on, keep going for hours. That's what we should call it.
We pivot, I guess. Yeah, exactly. It's pissing me off that I can't remember what I was gonna say. It was totally on the heels of what you were saying, and that everyone at my work was kind of having that attitude of, well, don't bother trying to like go that extra mile because this place will just wear you down. No one will appreciate your effort and you'll eventually become broken like me. Like I had a few other people give me, that wasn't verbatim, but,
I know
that was the essence of what they were bringing was like, yeah. Oh yeah, you're so eager, just wait. And I'm like, holy fuck.
And you're like, maybe that's how I don't get like you.
Well, it's the lifers. Yeah, it's the people who are waiting for retirement and they just kind of counting down the days, you know?
Yeah.
Anyways, what a weird ending to this episode.
This is awesome.
Maybe I'll trim that. Yo, thank you so much for coming. This was a blast.
So much fun.
And thank Andre for me.
Oh, I will. He would
a poker room
love to come back as his own guest, but I think that was perfect. He actually wants to start his own.
Me out, yeah.
He wants to just do one with just me and him. I think that might be kind of funny.
Yeah, you guys could have a podcast for sure.
Or it's just
Right on. Well, thanks again. We high five at the end.
This was awesome. This was a blast.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.